unspeakable crime, murder at midnight. A deal I made, a life I had to take. Someone I loved once held so tight. The screams will follow me, cries of my ancestors set going. My operate, resting in brain, shape-shifting. I feel the animal high inside me. I feel the change. I feel the change coming. We are one but not the same. This form I desire, innocent blood I will devour. Ancestors gathering round the dwelling, the spirit inhabiting, evil enveloping, the dancing graves in the night, the spirit occupying and transforming, stolen heights, dark practices, my secret life, feathered outers, mysticism, intriguing, my operate, resting in brain, shape-shifting. I feel the animal high inside me. I feel the change. I feel the change coming. We are one but not the same. Give me the ability to hide in plain sight, so no one can see me, not even in the light. I am the crawler, I'm a within, I'm nobody's friend. This initiation, it's all part of the dark creation. My desires performing incantations. I walk in disguise. If I catch you, it's your demise. Shamanism, my religion, summoning spirits, manifesting myself and changing my flesh. A nightmare to behold. I'ma make you part of the fold. The skin of a man, the soul of a predator. The change is complete. This thing I become, my flesh has succumbed. My operate, resting in brain, shape-shifting. I feel the animal high inside me. I feel the change. I feel the change coming. We are one but not the same.
Catching a reflection in the mirror of something standing in the corner of my room, watching me, observing me. Is it my imagination or insanity? A strange hum, a flash of light. I'm overcome, nothing but fright. Otherworldly beings taking me in the night. I'm an extraterrestrial hostage tonight. I wanna run, but I can't move. What do I do? What do I do? Where are they taking me? Where are they taking me? I'm an extraterrestrial hostage tonight. I wanna run, but I can't move. I don't feel real. I wake up in my bed. Was it just in my head? Looking at my hand, there's something there. Inside of me, I'm feeling oh so scared. Confusion and nasty fear. It wasn't just a nightmare. So loud, so bright, hypnotizing me figures lost in surrounding me tonight. I'm an extraterrestrial hostage tonight. I wanna run, but I can't move. What do I do? What do I do? Where are they taking me? Where are they taking me? I'm an extraterrestrial hostage tonight. I wanna run, but I can't move. I don't feel
change inside of me. The inner human slowly dead in me. I feel it come alive. The darkness brings me light. There ain't no stopping it, and you will never hide from me. Pain of the change. What have I become? A creature of the night. Ruled by moonlight. The pain of the change. This body's no longer mine. Feel wild and free, but caged at the same time. It's hard to be human, think human, feel human. A hunger's arising inside of me. The beast is alive and break it free. It's hard to be human, think human, feel human. Keep putting more chains on the beast. Hope it don't break loose. You better hope so too. I'm still inside. I'm still here. What have I done? When did this all start? I have become a monster in the dark. A hunger like no other. Running on instinct. Was this creature always inside of me? The pain of the change. What have I become? A creature of the night. Ruled by moonlight. The pain of the change. This body's no longer mine. Feel wild and free, but caged at the same time. It's hard to be human, think human, feel human. A hunger's arising inside of me. The beast is alive and break it free. It's hard to be human, think human, feel human. Keep putting more chains on the beast. Hope it don't break loose. You better hope so too. Whoa, you better hope so too. Whoa, you better hope so too.
All right, folks. Welcome to Paranormal Roundtable. Let's change this here. Yep. Look at some of the comments. How's everybody doing tonight? I got a little bit of weird feed going on in my ears here. Can't hear. Artistic Bunny says, I went to join, but working out. Well, you were in a minute ago. It looked like you were in. Getting a feedback here when I talk. It's hurting my ears. Oh, wow. Okay, well, tell Tony to bring some when he comes back. There's not a case in there at all?
No.
Well. So we are in the middle of moving at the house, and it is a mess. Like, we have stuff everywhere. Like everywhere. And the animals are kind of like, what the heck's going on? So they're just wandering around. They were very active today, just making noises, because I think that when you move, they don't know what's going on. So they get kind of confused. So they get real weird. You know what I mean? They don't know what the heck's happening here. Let's bring on our co-host tonight. What's up, Paul? How you doing?
Hey, Josh, how you guys doing?
Good. good. I mean, as good as can be expected when you're in the middle of trying to move a bunch of stuff.
You know, I hate moving.
It's terrible.
Yeah, we've been in this house for over 20 years, I think. And I told my wife, my next move is to the grave. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this.
Yeah. My wife said the same thing. She's like, this house, she's like, I don't care. She's like, you want to build the house, go ahead and finish building a house, whatever it is. She's like, you do whatever you got to do. She's like, I'm not moving from this house. And so I was like, okay, well, I guess we'll be living in 2 different houses. Joking.
Yeah, you don't want to do that.
I said, I'll be your neighbor because the other house won't be far away. So it'll be,
Oh, well, there you go. Okay.
she can have the whole house. But I'll just travel light. It is whatever. I hope that this is it. I mean, but then again, I don't know. I still want to, there's still a design that that Anthony and I and my wife, all of us kind of came up with. That hey, let's do this. Let's build this house. Yeah. Anthony has a degree in architecture, so he's able to help design.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I wish I would have known that because we had a patio cover put. Well, 2 different states had a patio cover put in. We needed an architect to draw up the plans for it up here. So.
Wow. Well, you should, yeah. And so, it's a little known fact, but yeah, he's an architect by trade. He has and we own a construction company. We do. We have that, and then we have the security company. And thank you for those gift donations. And that's the thing. I mean, I'm about to embark on another business venture.
Because you're not doing enough right now.
Well, I mean, because I'm into the fight game, and so I have a friend who wants to get me on board to do some of the fight stuff. And so we are talking about maybe joining forces. I'm not going to announce anything yet because I'm not for sure how it's going to go, how it's going to work out. I know that we're going to sponsor one another, and they're going to be using our brand, our clothing and things like that for their team.
Oh, that's awesome.
My friend has started a company that's actually kind of blown up over the last few years. He's been on the show. He's a friend of mine. His name's Chief. He's a native, but we kind of had our differences because of some of the people that I was associating with. He wasn't really on board with it, and so now that those people are not in the mix, he's kind of come back around and said, okay, because he felt the type of way, in which I don't blame him. We're not going to get into it tonight on the show, but I mean that's a good thing because now we have somebody who was kind of warning me, which I should have listened, but it's so hard to know. You don't know people's intentions in their heart. It's hard to know when,
Yeah. And, when you're good friends with somebody and, you think better of them, and it's just not always the case. And
and you refuse to see what people are telling you. And, but that's not the case now. So we're moving forward, but he started a catch wrestling league. And it caught on, no pun intended. And now he's coaching out of a black sheep boxing and kickboxing. They just needed a ground coach to kind of round them out.
Yeah.
And now they have that. And so that's a good thing. And the former owner is gone. So there's a new regime that's just in full control now. And there were 2 friends of mine who had kind of gotten into it. And they went under, they had a legal situation, but it was because of one particular person. All it takes is one person to cause an enormous amount of havoc.
Yeah.
And so, so hopefully things will work out. Everything's calming down now, and they have a good cadre of coaches.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to be involved in that because that's kind of where my roots was in that.
So what is catch wrestling?
Well, Anthony just showed up. Anthony, you want to tell him?
Yeah, I mean, it's called that because it's a style of wrestling that focuses more on and if I'm wrong about this, I'm sorry, but I believe that it focuses more on grabbing and controlling your opponent's limbs and using them as a source of like a means to submit them. There's more of an emphasis on that, and there's catch wrestling. There's Greco-Roman wrestling, which focuses a lot more on upper body takedowns as opposed to going after the legs. for this
Jiu-jitsu is the
freestyle
opposite.
wrestling.
It's more
Yeah.
about taking down the legs.
Mm-hmm.
Jiu-jitsu is judo is grabbing, throwing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that type of, and then they're all different disciplines, but they're also all the same
Mhm.
when you get down to it. Samba, which is a type of Russian wrestling, and then there's freestyle, which is pretty much anything goes, as the name says.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Jeet Kune Do of grappling.
Pretty much. And so I've tried them all, and I'm more comfortable. Roman Greco is kind of like more my speed.
Mhm.
But I've done freestyle, but this guy though, he is a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and so he is pretty adept as a grappler. He took it a lot further. Like, we all trained together back in the day, and I was more of a stand-up guy, and really more of a boxer. And then I switched to kickboxing because I wanted to be able to use my legs. But the thing is, it's really hard to be quick with your legs. You see some of these guys in the UFC kicking people in the face, they're usually not heavyweights.
Right.
I can tell you that.
Yeah.
Like, you'll see people get kicked in the face, and you're like, how did they do that? How were they fast enough to catch somebody? You really can't typically start off throwing high-level face kicks because the person is not tired enough yet. They're still, usually it's someone who's already kind of gassed. Not always, but
Yeah.
usually it's somebody, and it's a lower weight typically,
Mhm.
because they're still quick enough, fast enough to throw those legs and catch somebody off balance enough. Later in a fight, once you're into like the late second round and on, that's when you might catch somebody with like a kick to the face or a kick to the head.
Yeah.
Most of the time, it's low leg strikes. Those are the most effective, and you can wear somebody down
Oh yeah.
in a fight. I've done it many times.
What was the name of that big old dude in early UFC who he got his leg chopped like over and over and over by the small Brazilian dude. He was just focusing on low leg kicks, and you see him just like finally like a big timber just falling. What's that guy's
I
name?
don't know. I've seen it happen a lot, so I don't. That could be anybody.
Oh man, it's a perfect example of like the effectiveness of those low leg kicks, because that guy was like a hill giant, and the guy kicking him in the leg was a small little Brazilian dude, and he brought him to his knees.
Yeah.
What was really in vogue when I was fighting, what really became popular was the Brazilian or Japanese jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Because there is a difference. One was like a spinoff of the other. Japanese was first, Brazilian took it, and the Gracies, of course, became famous for it. And I knew Henzo.
Mhm.
And so these guys, they actually took it to another level. And I've met many fighters over the years in many different capacities, but there was no money, really. There was really no real money in it when I was enabled and young to do it. It was just not. So I did some of the early days. I did some of the amateur stuff, and I was pretty good. But there was, like I said, there was no money to be made in it, and I just thought, I'm going to waste getting punched in the head or breaking something.
It's Paul Verlaine.
Paul Varlins. Okay, there you
Varlins,
go.
yeah.
Paul Varlins.
Good name.
Yeah, he got beat by our friend Tank. Tank took him out too.
Yeah, I think you have it.
But Tank's problem though was he wouldn't stay in shape, and he would take a fight on a short notice and come off a bar stool.
Yeah,
and you just can't do that, you know.
No.
I
I had a friend who was into jiu-jitsu here. It was many years ago, and he talked about it a lot and everything. And lately, I've been seeing a lot of jiu-jitsu gyms. That's tough to say. Popping up around St. Louis here, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, Kenpo was my thing. I did a lot of because my dad's friend had a school when I was young, and my dad put me in it and said, "Hey, let's do this." And I tried Taekwondo twice in my life. I didn't like it. I don't want to say anything disparaging because one of the owners of Black Sheep is a black belt in Taekwondo, and I don't want to offend her. She's really into Taekwondo, but she does a lot of other things too. But boxing was my real love. Quick hands. I got quick hands, and I have a video of me hitting a speed bag and actually showing the speed, because people talk a lot and they want to say things. They have no clue. They have no idea what they're talking about. They really don't know. They say, "Oh, this guy thinks he's tough. He thinks he's tough, blah, blah, blah." But they're not going to say it to my face. I can tell you that. You
Yeah,
know?
the only time I've done that is when I do, or I used to do plyometrics, and that's a lot of jump training and stuff, and
Mhm.
not shadow boxing, but speed bag and high kicks and everything. And yeah, over 50, I can't get that leg up there high
Well,
anymore.
and you're not supposed to. By the time I'm 49, I'm not no spring chick. I'm not going to get in there and fight these young guys. I mean,
Yeah.
every time I do, they always say, "Hey, we're going to go 50%, 60, whatever." They give a percentage, and then they punch you right in the eye, and you're like, "Oh, great! Now I got a busted eye." Thank you. That's happened a few times, and then I
Yeah.
get upset, and I punch back, and then they get mad because, "Hey, man, I'm training to do something. You're just an old guy with a podcast." I'm like, "Well, you shouldn't have hit me like I was an old guy with a podcast. You should have hit me like I'm, hey, Shuddy, I'm not trying to hurt you, But if you're gonna do that to me, I'm gonna hit you back. It's gonna happen.
Maybe respect the elders and not hit them.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Every time I spar with somebody, they want to get too whatever, and then when you do something to them, you give them a throw or a kick or a punch, and then they're like, "Hey, you're getting all serious." I'm like, "Well, you're not going 50%." And then when you hit somebody, because I hit real hard, because I'm a big guy and I know how to punch. But when people always say, "Well, you're going too hard," I'm not. I'm actually. So I said, "Look, I can take it down a notch and go 30% if that's what you want, but don't." They like to play games. Fighters are, and they're edgy too. They get real, and it seems like nowadays fighters, they like to smoke a lot of weed.
Yeah.
Back in the day when I was lifting, that's one of the things I want to do with my other channel. We're going to talk about a lot of different stuff. I'm going to do the economy. I'm going to talk about fight, and I'm going to talk about supplements like the Shilajit.
Mhm.
Everybody's trying to talk about these supplements. I know about supplements. I used to take a lot of stuff, and I can explain to people like what creatine is, what HMB is, what they do, how it affects your body molecularly. These are just the different types of things I want to do. But we're just killing time, folks. Get some people in the chat so that whenever people come on, they can talk. Let me bring on Artistic Bunny. Oh, hey, Artistic Bunny.
Hey.
Hi. Oh, wait. I didn't realize I was on. Hi. Sorry.
Well, it's okay. You're on the camera. Everybody can see you, and they're like, "Holy crap! Who is that?"
I know I look bald because I had my hair pinned back and I was working out, and then the thing was going on. I was like, "Oh, Josh is on. I gotta come back on."
Yeah, only everybody's looking at you. It's no big deal. It's no.
Hi.
So,
No
so you were
makeup.
working out. What were you? How were you working out? What do you work out on?
I do 30 minutes on the treadmill, and I up it every 5 minutes. And then the last 2 minutes I sprint, and then the last minute I walk. And
Good.
then 30 minutes I do crunches, I do lifts. I'll show you my gym really quickly if you want to see it.
Okay, we'd love
It's actually my dad's
go
gym,
walk
but
here, Paul.
hold
Let's
on
go
one
check
second.
out the gym.
Yeah. I used to be a personal trainer,
Right.
so I love seeing this.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, all that.
That's
wow.
pretty good.
Yeah. Lots
Got
of
the
weights
punching bag in the
everywhere.
corner back there, I see. Yeah.
I don't see a speed bag.
Punching
Yeah.
or heavy bag. Sorry.
Yeah, I see the heavy bag, but I don't see the speed bag.
And also I have the fit ring too.
Oh wow.
So all this thing's really dangerous though. This thing is supposed for leg presses and stuff. That thing can crush you.
A leg sled. Yeah. If you don't you got to lock it in right now. Looks like you have a pretty good gym there. That's pretty nice.
Yeah. And the phone was on here, and I had Spilling talking to me, and she was like, "Oh, hey," and I'm like, "Man, I can't talk right now." Running. So yeah. But
so you work out. That's a good thing. And Paul was saying that he's a personal trainer. And where
Used
did
to be.
you
Used to be.
Used to be.
Yeah.
Where did you train at? Was it for weightlifting or what was it? What
Me?
did you do, Paul? Yeah.
I just trained to do marathons actually, and to work out and be in shape and not get out of shape, and then to eventually help other people lose weight and get back in shape. Which
I could use that right now, but the thing is, you got to be real careful with cardio. I have a thing about cardio, and I'm going to tell you, cardio is good, but if you do too much of it, it releases a lot of free radicals into your body. And it does increase aging. It accelerates aging. It is the truth. Yeah, I'm not joking. I lost 120 pounds, well, over 120 something pounds
Nice.
back in 2019, 18, 19.
Nice.
And all I did was lift weights. I did a lot of walking too, but I'm not going to lie, because of my job. I had a job that I was doing, and I did a lot of walking, but I lifted weights and I just ate right. That's how I did it, because I had let myself get too big. But part of that I had to lose.
That's what I'm doing right now. Yeah, I'm eating like a lot of I actually went on a calorie deficiency, but you got to be really careful with when you do that, because a lot of people will try and do it permanently. You can't do it permanently.
Right.
And it's only for a short-term period, and you should be advised by a medical person to do it just most of the time, right? So, but the reason why I was gone for a while, because I've been watching you for years, since the beginning of when this channel's been on here, because I remember when you were on a certain other channel, not to be named, I started listening on there. So I've been following you for years, actually. And the last year I had kind of disappeared was because I had severe health issues. I was getting chronically ill. I was unhealthy, and I lost 45 pounds. That's why I've disappeared and come back.
Awesome.
So all my health stuff is like, I'm way better. I'm healthier. It's great. So it's better to do stuff and not sit around, because it will damage you. And I just turned 30, right? And I was having all like these health problems, and I was not like, I was not doing well. So yeah. So
Well, we're glad you're doing better now.
yeah.
definitely.
Oh yeah. So me too. And the other thing is, I remember you talking about like weightlifting through some of your stuff, and I was like, oh yeah, Josh knows what he's talking about, because my dad did it for 20 years. That's why there's all this stuff here. And also you're talking about some of the Japanese stuff. Just to backtrack, my dad does Aido now with the Japanese swords and everything. He wants to get to Kendo. So, and he's doing it starts with a Z. It's a type of karate. It starts with a Z. I forgot it. I just ran upstairs to tell him, but you were talking about it, so I thought I'd tell you really quick. So, but yeah.
We're all looking it up.
My wife,
Aido is where they don't. It's like a Japanese dance. It's like a dance with the sword, and it's very. It's like, it works you out, right? And the Kendo is when you hit like the bamboo with the sword. It's like you.
That's when they wear the masks, right? And like the robes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the Aido, they wear like just like regular kind of like robes, but they more so like do the dance, like they strike and stuff, and they don't hit each other. Not kind of.
Yeah,
not
it's
really.
like a kata.
Yeah. So, and he said, my dad said that's like really taxing on him right now. So, because he slipped back for a couple of years, and he's trying to get back to the gym now because he's seeing me. But yeah, I thought that I would point that out, because you were talking about all this stuff, and I ran up and I was like, hey, Dad, like Josh is talking about like karate, and he's like, yeah, that guy seems like a cool dude.
that's cool. Well, I'm glad he thinks I'm cool.
I mean, physical exercise and fitness is one of the most important things that anyone can do with themselves. You know,
Oh yeah.
Clears
And
your
I-
mind.
don't care what anyone says.
I kept telling all my clients that it's so easy to get out of shape, and it's so hard once you're out of shape to get back in the shape.
Yeah.
And taking that first step, that's absolutely huge. So
Oh yeah.
good for you. Good for you.
Yeah.
That's good.
And after I think almost 15 years, I've gone back into soccer. So I was in soccer, and now I'm back into it, and I've like started to get back into cardio. I used to do track, and I used to do cross country, and I used to run like really fast. And it was last week I had not ran that fast, and I swear, like 10 years. And people were like, I didn't see you could run that fast. And I'm like, man, it's been 10 years, right?
Yeah.
So, anyways, sorry.
Watch the knees though. Playing soccer, I played soccer for like 20 years growing up.
Oh, you did too?
My knees are shot. So
Never played
what
soccer.
position? What position?
Forward mostly, but towards the end of high school, they put me on defense, which I hated. So I don't know.
Oh, I'm midfield. I was goalie, when I started for like majority when I was like a tween and a teen. And then at the end, I was kind of midfield, and now I've gone back into midfield. But yeah, the knees, you have to be really careful with the knees, especially with weightlifting too. Because my dad messed up his left knee. And he said ever since he did that, the knee's never been the same. So it's not just cardio, it's also weightlifting too, which Josh would know, right?
I have to wear big like straps. I have to wrap my knees really well when I do squats.
Yeah.
So yeah, doing squats, you have to be real careful. I do it about 2 or 3 times a week. But here lately, I have gained weight, and I have not been eating as healthy as I'm used to, and I have not been doing anything good lately because I'm so stressed the heck out, and then I'm moving and I'm going through all kinds of crap.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to, and then on top of that, when you're
on top of my workouts,
and then on top of that, when you're buying healthy food, it's more expensive. It's more expensive than garbage food, junk food. So it's like, you know, if you're trying to save, you know, somebody that doesn't have a lot of budget, especially in Canada here, you know, everything's overpriced, right? So it's expensive to want to eat healthy as well. So it's just easy. It's quick and easy for somebody to grab a bag of chips. I was like that, right? But then I gained so much weight, so
and you
it's
can gain it so
not easy.
quickly too. I mean, it's like, dude. I mean,
Yeah.
for me, I can lose weight quickly. That's the good thing, but I can gain it quickly too. And then it's just hard when you get on that yo-yo. And then I mean, for me, I just got to like get back to what I was doing, and it's hard right now because like all of our dishes and cooking, everything's packed up.
Oh no!
So I have no choice but to eat out. So you're gonna have to try to eat.
And that's not good.
Yeah, and when you can't control what you make or whatever, it is
frustrating.
And
Absolutely.
we were supposed to be able to move like a week earlier, and the people that are there, they're just like they were just taking their time, and I'm like, oh no. So I'm not going to get into it, but it was like it's been a nightmare. It has really been a nightmare, and so there's been an uptick in the activity in our house too, because of what has been happening. Like it just whenever you move around and you move stuff around and you do stuff, it disturbs things. Like the animals are disturbed right now, and everything is disturbed because everything's been moved around. So whatever is there now has become more active.
And in the house that you're leaving, or the new
house
house
we're leaving, yeah.
Oh,
and hope to God and pray. I pray
it doesn't follow
and try to come. Because there was one room in the new place we went to. When we first looked at it, we went through it and we were like, oh, and there was one room, just one, where I felt something. I didn't feel anything anywhere else. But unfortunately, that room is the one room that's right down from our main bedroom. So I'm hoping and praying that doesn't be an issue, because I'm going to have to, once we're going to have to get it, and I have to cleanse it and do what I got to do in the name of Christ, because I don't want to play around with these things. I don't want to let them follow us. The land is really cool. It's a big piece of property, so it's going to be nice. And the good thing is where we're going. I already know the police officer at night. That's the main guy, so I will be.
That's good. That's
feel
really
a lot
good.
safer, because he's going to, know the situation that we're dealing with and what we're going through, so that these people can't harass us. Well, they can try, but the thing about where we're going to be staying is that they will have no excuse, because there's really, if you're in that town, you're there because you know what I mean. Like you have to. It's like you're not going through by accident. You have to be there for a reason. You would not have any reason to go back up in there. So it would be very clear that they would be there for that purpose, to nefarious purposes. And so it was very strategic on our part to do that. And so, and also the first thing I'm going to do, one of my best friends it's funny because I ran into a guy, shout out to Tony Sanchez. He's a police officer, a good friend of mine. We used to do security together. He was in the security field for years, and I think he still owns a small company. But he is a police officer, and I saw his car when he pulled in. I was like, "Damn, that's nice." We had it all decked out.
It's weird because, like, when I was pumping gas and that car pulled in, I couldn't see him, but I just felt compelled to like look at it, and I followed it with my eyes, and I just brushed it off, like maybe I'm just being weird. And then he comes out of the car.
Yeah, it was
It's
Tony.
Tony.
He was pumping. He was looking all stern, and I was on the phone with another podcaster who, strangely enough, the guy's name is John. He's got a podcast. It's called. I just talked to him, and he's been talking about vampires, and that's why one of our listeners sent me his information. So I was on the phone with him, and then I saw Tony, and it was funny because he brought up Rio Lotto.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, I talked to the guy that I was talking to, and I said, that's funny because I was talking to somebody yesterday about that, because when I was working Rio Lotto and when it was defunct, it was a government housing.
Yeah.
The night that I heard, it was late May, and I heard two bang, bang, which I sounded like gunshots. I think it was around building 9 or 10. And I went over there to where it was at, and I don't remember the exact date of when that guy was shot, but I remember that it was in late spring years ago, and I was in the adjacent property, and I came over there, and this guy had been shot. It was a drug deal, and they were just kids. They had just shot each other, and it was weird because I heard gunshots, and it was an abandoned complex years ago, like in 2014 or 15, whatever it was, we were working there, and I was walking around it, and I heard that, and I was like, what in the hell? But I think that was weird when he mentioned that today, right there while I was talking to the other podcaster. So it's really weird. But anyway, this guy, he's a good friend of mine, and so he pulled up, and it's just weird how these synchronicities happen. Like, it's just a strange thing. But I think that when something happens like that, there can be some sort of residual that still exists in some sort of weird way. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. And I don't know. I can't remember the day when it happened. I just know that it was in late spring and it was already getting warm. And I remember it was late May when I heard those gunshots, and I was like, what the hell was that? But I walked over the complex. I didn't see anything.
Wow.
And, but he was telling me that he had hired a guy who used to live at one of the government housing projects that we worked security at. And he said that Rio Lotto. And I said, that's crazy, because we were the last ones to have that contract. But when you sit back and you look at your life and you know everything, it's almost like everybody seems to think this, that you feel like you are the center of your own world or whatever, because you are, I guess, to a degree. But everybody wants to feel like they're somebody, like they're important. You know what I mean? And I really think that the same cast of characters comes back with you over and over again until you get it right. And I've said this before, and it's made some people mad. But I do believe that. I feel that way. And so there's so many people that keep popping up in my life. And he's one of them. Like, that guy, we've worked together. And then, like, one day I had to go to the hospital, and he was moonlighting at the hospital. And that hospital is not close to my house, but I was having some problems because my blood pressure had gotten real high. My wife was like, we're taking you to the hospital. And so I ended up going to the hospital. Stress, this was like 3 or 4 years ago, and he was there. And we started talking, and my wife's like, oh, it's cool, but you got to go back to the ER, and so, yeah, it's just weird. Like, you run into people like over and over again. I don't think that's a coincidence. I don't think that's by accident. I think everything happens for a reason,
I must be doing it wrong, because I don't run into people over and over again. I just make new friends now.
Yeah.
It's weird.
I dream about people.
I have too. Yeah.
And even 10, 15 years later, I dream about them. And it's really, for me, I have really vivid dreams. I've dreamt of people, and then like a week later I've seen them, and I was like,
wow,
that's kind of creepy. I don't really like that.
No.
So I kind of agree with Josh for sure. Yeah. I think maybe it's sort of like, souls sort of like they're linked in a way, whether we, spiritually, like we cross paths again and again. And maybe like even that sense of like reincarnation, like you reincarnate and then the spirits sort of cross again. Kind of think that's true too, but I guess that's depending on your belief, right? So
Yeah. You know, every now and then, you know, my mom died 11 years ago, and my dad died 7 years ago. So every now and then when I lay in bed at night, I always say, you know, you guys, you know, I haven't seen you in a while. I've been thinking about you a lot, but, you know, haven't come to visit or anything. And, you know, a day or two later, I'm usually, you know, they're in a dream or something happens to where, you know, I smell Dad's cologne, or something reminds me of them. So yeah, I believe that too. Yeah, that's cool.
Sometimes
I
you'll have a dream too of somebody, and it'll be so vivid and so real, and then you wake up and you're like, whoa.
Mm-hmm.
And it's people that you know and that are still alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's happened to me more than a couple times where I've reached out to that person, friend, relative, whatever, and they were like, well, that's weird, I was dreaming of you too. That's happened to me a few times.
That's
You know,
weird.
in my life. One of my friends, she's like one of my best friends, and we were both dreaming, and then we were talking, and she was walking. It was a weird dream. She was walking in her own backyard, and she was about to fall into these holes, Heather.
Oh, yeah.
And she's very much that kind of person.
Yeah, I could see that happening.
She doesn't make good decisions. She's a very good business person. She doesn't make bad business decisions, but she makes bad decisions when it comes to trusting certain people. And so I was grabbing her. And in the dream, like at one point, Nellie had like knelt down in front of her to trip her to keep her from falling backwards into a hole. So I kind of pushed her, and Nellie, and she fell. And we were kind of holding her to get her, and she kept like laughing like it was a big joke. And I said, this is not funny. So then I wake up, and I told my wife, I was like, I had a weird dream, you know? And so I ended up calling Heather later that day, and she's like, I had a dream. That was weird. I dreamed about you too. And like, she couldn't remember what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like, she had taken a nap. I had taken a nap, and I dreamed that we were trying to stop her from hurting herself.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and I've had dreams of, okay, like my aunt, one of my aunts that's deceased, Aunt Rosa. Like I was very close with her. And I dreamed right before she passed away, I dreamed that she had sat down on the bed next to me, and she was still alive. And she says, I'm going to be leaving soon. I just found out. She's like, and then she was very specific too. She says, so don't be sad, and don't be afraid, you know. And she's the one aunt that I would always go to whenever stuff would be going on in my life and people would be messing with me and doing stuff, whatever. And I would go to her and I would tell her. She told me when I was very young, she says, you're going to be your lot in life. And it was very weird. She told me, she's like, people aren't going to understand you, and they're going to come after you, and they're going to say things, they're going to do things. Just keep doing what you do. It's okay. And she explained to me too, like she had a belief that I was mixed. Like the reason that I was white and Hispanic, she really believed, because nowadays it's not as big of a deal. It's not as pronounced, although somebody got racial with me today on Facebook, which hasn't happened in a long time.
Yeah.
But they called me something, and it was a black person. And I was like, I'm not going to sit here and argue with these people. It was about politics, and they got real snipey, and they started attacking me. I was just in the comment section, and I laid out a very clear and concise argument. I was like, I'm not trying to argue with these people.
No.
The people that were doing it, they weren't all black, white, Hispanic. It was basically Democrat, Republican, which I've been very clear on. I am not either one. But somebody, you know, was trying to say the other day that, well, Ted Bundy was a Republican. I'm like, that's nice. And John Wayne Gacy was a Democrat. So what are you trying to say?
Well,
Both of
doesn't
them were horrible serial killers that murdered people mercilessly. And they were both very vocal about what party they supported. And the lady had nothing else to say. She said that. And I was like, look, I'm not picking teams here. But if I have to say, I'm going to vote for the economy. And people say, well, he had policies that he didn't, there's promises and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, if I promised you something and a group of people came against me and stopped me from giving it to you, well, whose fault is that? People don't do that. They don't do that. They just say, oh, well, this is the way it is. So this person said something about my race. And I could have been like, look, dude, you know, I'm actually Hispanic and white. And I grew up people being very racial towards me. I was born in 1975 in the Old South, and Taylor, Texas was very segregated. It was not normal, nor was it common to have a Hispanic woman with a white man. So when I was born, I was a half-breed, and I was called that a lot as a child, and it was just a normal thing. I mean, like, you know, like when I was in first grade, one of the teachers, she was doing this, and she said, "You, halfy, come here." Like she
Halfy?
literally would say. I never thought anything of it. It was just the old South. I mean, this is how we grew up, and I'm not, you know, I mean, it was 1981 or something like that, and she was snapping her fingers, and she called me half-breed, whatever, and grabbed me by my arm and just pulled me in line or whatever, because I think I was talking or something, and
Really don't.
it wasn't like a mean teacher. I remember her name was Miss Griffith. I don't remember her being ugly or mean to me, but she was. I know she was racist because of the way that she treated the black children. I could see it.
Well, and calling you halfy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and thank God she never really took anything out on me, but I did deal with it. And now I remember when I was 15 years old, there was this old guy who used to work at this one barbecue joint, and he asked me. He was always calling me that. He was always calling me breed. And I remember he had this big anchor tattoo on his arm, and he was just an old redneck. And he said, "What you want, breed?" Just like that. I mean, like he was. And so I was 15, and I had my friend from Austin there with me, and he was like in shock. He went to Westlake, which is rich white kids. Actually, they're mostly rich white kids. And he like his family, like they all knew Drew Brees, the quarterback. Like Drew Brees wasn't that much younger than me, but this guy was, you know, he played football there. And so we were having a game in Taylor, and I was playing for a team in Austin, and it was like a semi-pro thing or whatever. And it was just for fun, you know. And he was like, "That dude just called you a breed." And I'm just like, I was like 16 or something like that, you know. And I was like, so like, he's like, "You let him do that?" And I was like, and, you know, and I was just like, you know, and then I looked around, and I was with my friend Greg Hill, you know, Greg, who's an amazing athlete. And he's black. And we were sitting there in black, you know, and Greg's like, he's like, this place is weird. Like, he's like, all the black people are sitting over here, and the Hispanic people are sitting where we're at. And then the white people, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they were kind of weirded out by it. They were like, "Whoa, this is weird," because they were from Austin. And I was just like, "Well, this is just how I grew up." And they were just like,
Yeah, it's just like normal.
we were just normal for us,
Yeah.
you know? And so when this guy, the next time, so I guess I kind of clicked in my head, these people have been insulting me my whole life and treating me a certain type of way, you know, like it was just normal, you know? And so the Mexican people that I grew up with, some of them I was really close to, but some of them were very racist, and they would just call me white boy or gabacho, or they would call me huerlillo or güero or blanco. And I started to take offense to it. I got tired of it, you know, and I got tired of certain white people calling me like beaner and spick and saying things like that.
You got
mohow, because they love to say it that way. "Hey, mohow." And I'm just like, yeah, I'm not that. My mom's like 5th generation Hispanic. She's been here since before the Alamo.
you got insulted by both sides. That's what
Yeah,
happened
both
to my
sides. They would
grandfather.
call me that. Yeah.
My grandfather, when he was born in India, he was born, I think, 1938, and they're English, they're Anglo, and he was there when Gandhi was assassinated, and they didn't want any of the white people there or anybody that was mixed or whatever, so, or the English or anybody, so they went to England, and because they were tan, like darker, even though they're considered Caucasian, basically, they're like, "We don't want you here either." So like the white people.
You don't get any favors, no awards for being mixed. I mean, that was the hard thing.
Yeah, and then when my grandfather came here, and he met my grandmother, my great grandmother had a conniption, right? She was like, absolutely not, right? And this is in the 50s, you know. And when my grandmother was gonna have my dad, they're like, "The baby's gonna be deformed," you know. My dad came out.
You know, they thought that about
like,
me too. Autistic,
and it was like really, yeah. That's exactly like what exactly you just said was. I've been told that for years, right? Like people, you know, my grandfather was like, "I went to one country, they didn't want me there. I went to the other country, they didn't want me there. What am I, right?"
Yeah, you don't fit in, but I just learned to accept it. I mean, one of my coaches used to tell me, he was black, and he would just be like, he's like, "You need to get that Anglo intelligence." He would jokingly say that. He goes, use your Latin rage and mix it with your Anglo intelligence. And this is a black guy. He used to say,
Wow.
like, Coach Jackson. And he'd be
Oh my
like,
God.
he's like, what are you doing, man? He's like, get that Anglo intelligence up there and that Latin rage and use it. And I would just be like, okay, coach. He just did, it was just like the way they were. And one of my baseball coaches was pretty, he would always tell me that I could throw the ball. He goes, you have that Latin arm. And I'm like, okay, thanks. I never really thought about it. I was like, and then one day I just kind of was sitting there as a teenager and I'm like, I'm mixed. That's just what I am, what are you? Really, what are you? I mean, you're just kind of there.
But you're also
and then
Cherokee
you start to
too,
come
right?
to the do what?
You're also Cherokee. You were saying you have
No, not Cherokee, Comanche. Yeah.
Oh, my bad. I knew you had indigenous. Do you say indigenous? We say indigenous in Canada. We don't say native.
I just say Indian, or I say
Indian, Native
American, Native,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
I'm quite a bit actually. My grandmother, was Comanche, and so
Yeah.
and then her husband was a Spaniard. So I mean, it's really he looked like a white guy. He had green eyes. I
Mhm.
mean, he was very light-skinned. But we do have a recessive gene somewhere that's dark because, like, Anthony's dad is light-skinned.
So was my mom.
His mom,
Mhm.
she could pass for a white woman. I
Mhm.
mean, straight up.
Wow.
But then Anthony comes out and he's dark, but he looks like his dad.
Yeah.
Like he looks like
Yeah, I
his
look just like
dad
my
with
dad.
a tan. Like
Mhm.
when he came out, I was like, he was long. He was like this long.
Long baby.
Unfurled his arms like an alien, like, and his legs came out like a grasshopper. And I was like, "Ooh, what is that? What is?" And then of course my mom was like, "Shut up, he's beautiful." And I'm like, "You lying?" It was ugly as hell. And she was like, "He's a beautiful baby." And then he didn't walk for several years. They wouldn't let his feet touch the ground. I didn't understand that. And then we would go to eat dinner, and he would cry because he didn't want to eat whatever was his food couldn't touch.
Yeah.
It was a very weird thing, and I'm sitting there going like, my mom used to slap the piss out of me if I didn't eat. If I even looked at food and didn't eat it, and he could just throw it on the floor, and she'd be like, "Oh, it's okay." I'm like, "What is this?"
No.
I-
Yeah. Get the belt, right?
I still can't let
That's
my
what I
food
got.
my food touch on a plate. No.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Can't do it.
I'm glad I
You
don't
still
remember
like
being that
that?
way.
No,
How
I
old
don't
are
like
you?
it.
I eat everything in sight. No, I don't care.
51.
You will not let your food
Oh.
touch on the plate.
Unless it's
I thought you
gravy
were-
and
I
mashed
thought you were
potatoes and like a roast beef or something. That's fine. But
Oh my gosh! Like, why is that?
I don't know.
It just like, doesn't have an
It's just
Just
weird, I guess.
Roast
I mean,
beef
I
and
don't know.
what?
It's like,
Roast
that's
beef
just
and
weird. These
Gravy
paranormal
and
Paul, I guess
mashed
that's
potatoes. Those go together.
Um,
But stuff like my turkey can't touch the dressing. Stuff like that.
Jeez, that's supposed to be eaten
if
together.
it's
Right?
gravy, I don't like gravy.
You don't like
Really?
gravy?
No. It's gross.
When I was a
I hate
kid, I
ketchup,
didn't
I
like
hate
mayonnaise.
mustard.
Like I could eat it if it was on something, but spreading it on there or anything that was
No.
like white, like that, if it looked like mayonnaise or
Mayonnaise?
something, I
Mhm.
couldn't. Like
I
even
hate
now,
mayonnaise too.
there's something about like when they say it's spicy mayo. I'm like, I could have done without you telling me it was mayo. Like if you would have
Yeah.
just said it was a spicy
I
sauce.
hate mayo too. Yeah.
Yeah, but if they say it's
Gross.
mayonnaise, I'm just kind of like, ah.
See the
But
commercials
like
for,
I'll eat it, like I
Hellmann's?
said, but it's just
You're
yeah,
like,
Hellman's.
Hellman's is
It
good.
looks- and it turns yellow. Like if it sits out, it looks like some kind of oil or something.
Yeah. Or
Yeah,
if you
I don't
don't
know.
shake like mustard and that like
Oh,
it's
that
like
water?
mustard
Yeah.
pea
I
that
don't
comes
like
out.
that.
Mustard pea.
Yeah. What is that?
I like
Yeah,
that.
I get it.
I'm gonna write that down.
Yeah, write that down.
Sorry.
Oh.
No,
So artistic bunny, what do you got for us? You said so you obviously you called in, so you got something to tell us. I mean, what is it besides mustard and
you wanted to tell us about mustard pea.
I think I was on before. I told the story about my brother with the farmer with no eyes. Do you remember that? And he was in the fire, right?
Okay.
Yeah, and then I went back and told
you
my
didn't show
brother
your
that.
face.
Yeah, I didn't show my face because I was really tired. So, but yeah, I went back and told my brother that, by the way. And my brother
Wow.
was mortified. He was like, "Oh, I didn't think about that." And I was like, "Yeah, you can thank Josh Turner for that." So,
Yeah, well,
like-
don't blame me for whatever's going on with your family. I don't want to be involved in that.
But no, it's just that you're like, oh yeah, he died in a fire, so his eyeballs would have melted. It's just
Oh
what-
man, yeah.
so I was like, oh, that's nice. Um, yeah, I've always been. I'm like you. I'm fascinated by the paranormal. I've had things happen to me, like I've had things happen to my family. My dad was, I think I mentioned before, my dad was a Civil War reenactor. So we went to Gettysburg. We were at the 150th anniversary of Gettysburg. We did
Wow.
all kinds of stuff. But my dad was at the 150th anniversary, Chancellorsville. You know, he has all these books on like, ghosts of Gettysburg. And my grandfather's told me stories. My grandfather read, Father Malachi Martin's book Hostage to the Devil when it came out in the 70s.
Hmm.
And and if anybody doesn't know that book is like disturbing. It talks about like, exorcisms and like the story my dad told me was about the little like demon imp and stuff. And he said he was a little boy when he read it and it scared him. So it's all like sort of stuff that's always been like told. Like I've had my grandfather sort of told me all these stories, and then as I got older, I started to have experiences. And um, the other one I wanted to kind of tell you about was before I tell you, have you ever had a story where somebody told you that they touched the ghost? They physically touched the
Yeah,
ghost,
it's happened a few times. Yeah.
because that's what happened to me, and I didn't know it.
Before you say it though,
Yeah,
did it feel spongy?
no,
No. Wow. What did it feel like?
it felt normal.
Like a human. Yeah.
Wasn't a
So
human.
solid.
Wasn't a human. It was an animal.
Oh wow.
And I was in
I mean, could you
somewhere.
feel the fur and everything, or?
Yeah, it was
Hmm.
fuzzy. It was fuzzy, soft and fuzzy.
What
Um,
kind of what kind of animal do you think it was?
it, it was a cat. It was a cat. And funny enough, it was the family that I was with. They were reenactors, and they were they were very. I think they were, but they were religious. They went church every Sunday, and we stayed there. My brother actually dated their daughter. So we used to go over to their house. It was like a 2-hour drive. It's somewhere they were west of us, west side of Ontario. That's it. Um, and they're in that town that they're in. I'm not going to name it. It's a very old town. It's like over 100 years old, and the house that they were in was over 100 years old. Very very old house, and we were making clothing for the reenactments. Getting ready for the season to go to different parts in like Pennsylvania, or like sometimes they do Civil War reenactments up in Canada too. And and so I was making my ball gown there, and they had two orange cats, and they were actually siblings. One was named Max. It was a really fat cat. I just call it Garfield because it looked like Garfield. And then it had a sibling, and it was a girl. I forget the girl's name, and it was another orange cat. And they just sat around, and when you're sort of young or younger, or you're a teenager, or a kid, you're just like, cat, I gotta touch the cat, right? And I'm petting the cats and whatever. And then we came back about a week later. They were having a Halloween party, and this, um, all I knew is that they had a bunch of cats. They had cats. They liked them, and so this party, they had three kids. So their eldest daughter, my brother was dating because they were the same age, and they had two other kids. Well, it was a teenager adult party. So the two kids, one was a tween, one was a kid. They couldn't bring them, and I used to talk to them. So I'm sitting there in this front room of this really old house, and I think it was a MASH Halloween party too. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, oh man, I'm so bored on this really. And they used to collect all kinds of antiques as well and everything. Um, and I'm sitting on this antique sofa in this really old house, really bored. And this black cat comes up, and the cat had like white on its chin, and it had like a white paw, and I'm like, oh, cool cat. So I just start petting it, and it felt like a cat. It was normal, right? And I'm like, man, I'm so bored, right? And so my dad, he pops his head out from the other room, and he's like, we're gonna leave in like, 5-10 minutes. And I'm like, the God, right? I don't want to be here. And he leaves, and then I'm like, oh, I gotta leave soon, and this cat gets up, jumps off the old antique sofa, walks across the floor, and it goes to the other door, and it passes through the like a normal cat, like it just goes around the corner, disappears, right? Like just a cat, right? So I'm like, oh, okay, think nothing of it. And we come back about a couple weeks later to fix to finish the dresses, and the other two cats are, one's drooling on the sofa, the fat one, and the other cat, and they're I'm petting them, I'm talking to the two kids, and I said, well, where's the black one? And they're going, what black one? I said, and they used to play tricks all the time, and again, like they were religious, but they also believed in the paranormal and everything, and I'm like, guys, that's not funny, right? And they're like, what are you talking about? We're not making anything up. And I said, you have another cat here. I said, you guys are cat crazy. I said, there's cat stuff everywhere, and they're like, no, there's no other cat. And so their son, the middle child, sort of starts to back away, and he calls the grandmother, and the grandmother pulls a book off the shelf, and she starts flipping through it, pulls this picture out of this cat, and she goes, this cat? And I'm like, yeah. She goes, that thing died 5 years ago. And I'm like,
Wow.
no.
Wow.
And I said, I touched it. And she goes, you touched it? And I said, yeah, I was petting it for like 5-10 minutes in your front room, petting it. And I freaked out. I started to panic. It's one thing to see a ghost, but to actually touch one.
Yeah, and what let me tell you something. When you're at somebody's house and they have a ghost, and they touch you, or you touch the ghost, whatever, it is your responsibility to go and punch the owner in the face.
Yeah, I'm gonna punch their grandma in the face.
Well, you know what? Look, Gramps, hey,
I don't know.
judo chop. Like, why? Why would you let a cat touch me?
I mean, to be like, look, I don't make the rules.
I don't make the rules
I
here.
gotta live by them.
We've all seen the movie Jim Cotta. You know how it goes. It was terrible, but it taught me one thing: if some animal touches you in a ghost house or whatever, you slap somebody.
At that point,
Honestly, I don't know what the movie was about. I'm just assuming that that's what it was. But
I've never seen it.
at that point, you
Give him
got
a
to
good
punch
old
your grandma in the
chop.
face just to make sure it's not a ghost. I mean,
Judo chop them.
exactly.
Yeah, there you
What was
go.
that? Repeat that, Tony.
I said you got to punch that grandma in the face just to make sure she's not a
Because
ghost.
she could be a ghost monster too. You got to, and Anthony, show them how we do it with the chop. There,
Judo chop.
there we go.
We also have a kids course.
Yeah.
You got to do what you got to do. I'm just saying, if a ghost does that to me, comes up and gets free pets, I'm gonna look up on the owner. I'm gonna be like, all right, you know what's up? Let me take my chain off real quick. No, I'm joking. I just beat him up with the chain on. I don't care. But seriously,
I ran out of that house real quick. I was like,
I would too.
I was like, I know, I'm and I'm
They're petting a ghost
freaking
cat.
out.
I mean,
Wow.
But
Paul, what would you have done? Paul, you would have done something. You would have got up with.
I would have probably said, "Oh, cool, that's pretty neat."
And then that's it.
Well, yeah, I mean,
And that's why you got ghosties around
See,
you.
that's why you got all them ghosts around you.
Probably.
Man.
That's why you're getting haunted.
I saw something
Probably.
move behind you, Paul. Be careful. I don't know what it was. He's.
oh, you set my hair in there.
It's on the other side. It's on the other
The
side.
Okay.
There you go. No, I that is crazy. So you actually petted a ghost cat.
Yeah,
It is
and
actually
when I
crazy, man.
I still get creeped out about it, just the fact that I touched it. But when I think about it now, it was probably it was wandering the house. It was looking for the
Poor little
grandmother,
thing,
right?
man. The animals that really touches me because I
Yeah.
could never. I've always
Yeah.
wondered, like, because what my mother, in particular, we had 2 little dogs that passed away in our old place,
Mhm.
and when we moved, I was worried because we would periodically we would all see them. And I told Nellie, I said, what do you think is going to happen? Do you think that they're, and she was like, you know what? They'll just come with us if they're, And so I hope that, because Sweet Pea, all she wanted to do was sleep. She was the most quietest little Chihuahua ever.
Yeah.
Chihuahuas are yappy. She
Oh
never
God,
talked.
yeah.
She was such a sweet little dog, and she was just so cool. We could take her to my other sisters, and she had 2 little Chihuahuas, and she would play with them and play with them and play with them. And one of them was a bully, Gabriel. Remember Gabriel?
Yeah, I hated Gabriel.
He was so mean, and then she would take his crap, and then she would get at him, and that was it. And then he'd stop for the trip.
Yeah.
And then that was it. But she would never, she was so timid and didn't want any problems. And she would just find it toward the end of her life. She just found a place to curl up and sleep. And one day she passed away. Anthony found her, and she was hypoglycemic, and I think that she was having an episode, and this is what happened. And
eventually, she would have episodes. I think she just had one she couldn't take.
Nellie took real good care of her the last year or two of her life. A couple of years, she was always giving her honey and taking care of her and stuff. And Baby, my wife's dog that came with her, she's very empathic. And when the other one, Miss Kitty, had passed, she was kept following her around.
Yeah.
And was always, she was hovering around her, and we were like, what the hell is going on? And then she passed, and then we figured out Baby was just, and my brother didn't want to let go because I think Miss Kitty had a stroke, and my brother didn't want to take her to the vet. And I said, look, I was out of state. I was in Oklahoma. This was several years ago, back in 2017.
I think it was 17.
That's 2017. And I said, look, you're going to have to take her to the vet. I knew what had happened. And he didn't want to do it. And Baby, she stepped in and just became like my brother's constant companion. And then right before Miss Sweet Pea died, it was exactly 1 year later. It was the same month even. It was days apart, about a year apart or whatever. Same thing. Baby started acting weird. It was always going up and checking on Sweet Pea and would kind of whine. And I had even said, I told Anthony, I said, I think something's going to happen here. We need to really watch Sweet Pea. And she, like I said, she had hypoglycemia, and then she passed away. And Anthony picked her up, and she died in his hands. And it was I don't think I could have handled it. Me and that dog were very close. But my mother could not take care of her, so we stepped in and we took care of her. What was weird about the situation with Sweet Pea was that my mother's house was haunted. She had something there. And I don't think it was more than just one. I think there was more than just one thing. I don't think it was just one thing going on. She had a really big house. And at one point it was her and my uncle was living there. But then he moved out to go live with his girlfriend. And so I was there one day, and we shared a study. She had a really big, it was bigger than this room. That was her study. And so she let me pretty much use it as an office for my job. And so she would be gone at work. She was a workaholic. She worked 2 jobs always. And she would do that, and then she would go do people's taxes. And so I was there one day, and it was 6, 7 in the evening. My mom didn't come in until about 8 or 9. Left at 7 in the morning. She was gone all day. So I was there, and I heard something that sounded like footfall. It was when I first started going there regularly. And I heard this, and I was like, "What the hell is that?" And Sweet Pea was there with me. You remember her little basket? She slept in a little basket, and she'd lift her head up, and she'd kind of look at me, and I look at her, and I'd be like, "What in the hell was that?" Because there's Sweet Pea's over here, So I was talking to my uncle, and my Uncle Jaime told me, he says, "Dude, there's something here that's like an animal. It's like somebody's animal that would move around." And then there was something that was a humanoid shape that would walk around, and it was like a shadow. And so at night, my mother would complain that something would go into her room and sit at the foot of her bed, and she would see something, and then there would be a depression in the bed. And so one time, whatever this animal thing was, got in the bed with my mother, and she thought it was Sweet Pea. So she goes pet it, and she touches it, and she sees Sweet Pea trying to get up on the bed, and she's like, her hand is like on whatever that was.
Oh
Remember that
man.
kind of thing?
Yeah.
She touched
and she
something
was like,
too.
oh, and it like, so I get a call like 1 a.m. from my mother, who never calls me at 1 a.m. And this was right before she'd retired, so she was still working. And she retired for medical reasons because she ended up with a kidney stone. I'm not joking, the size of a baseball.
Oh my God.
I don't know how you even do that. I don't even know what the hell. The pain was intense, but she was still trying to go to work,
Yeah.
which I mean, just she was determined to work. And so she calls me at like 1 a.m. and it's like a weeknight, and I'm like, "Hey, Mom, I'm on post working, starting my company." And she goes, "I just touched something, and it wasn't Sweet Pea." And I'm like, "This is how she begins the conversation," and I'm like, "What?" Like, I'm not understanding what she's talking about. I said, "What are you talking about?" And I was pretty much living out there at the lake. The lady that owned the main house we were guarding, one of the places we were guarding, I stayed in the pool room. And that place had some weird stuff going on. But my mom calls me and she tells me this. And I'm like, "What are you talking about, Mom?" She goes, "Well, I reached over and I thought it was Sweet Pea because I felt something snuggle up on me." And she goes, and then I go to touch it, and then I look down, and she called me mijo. That's in Spanish, like a term of endearment. And she's like, "Mijo, I saw Sweet Pea trying to get up on the bed." And she goes, and I freaked out. She's like, "I'm up right now. I can't even, I'm scared."
Mm-hmm.
So I called my uncle. My uncle went over there and stayed the night with her, whatever. And then eventually she moved from there, and she moved back home to Taylor for about 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then she moved down to Tomball to be with my sister because her son was the growing up, the youngest grandkid, whatever. And she took care of him. He's very spoiled. But yeah, it was so weird that happened to her, because I saw something a couple times when I was over there that I thought was Sweet Pea, and it wasn't. And whatever it was, Sweet Pea would see it. And for a little while, remember Ivan and Miss Kitty stayed there too, and they would react to whatever it was. But we had something in our old place that was like an animal-sized thing that would run and jump underneath the kitchen sink. And I don't know how many times we saw that thing. We all saw it. And the animals would react to it too. And it was bizarre.
Mm.
I don't know. So you petted a ghost cat. Anything else you got to tell us?
Did your grandparents ever see the ghost cat before?
It wasn't my grandparents. It was my
Oh, sorry.
my friends. They said they saw shadows. Wolf was the pool boy.
Yeah, I stayed in the pool. I wore my shirt. You know how you take your shirt and you flip it down and you let your belly hang out, and you're like,
I bet Nelly loved
that.
that.
I had these really tight little booty shorts. Just imagine that for a minute there.
Oh, there's an image.
Yeah, that's an image for you. And that was me. And I carried the net around like this. I was just sexy. I didn't know anything about cleaning the
That's
pool.
what's going to give people nightmares.
I was just eye candy.
Oh, don't
I had a
say
nightmare last
that.
night. I don't need another one.
Aw, Nelly loves
I'm
him.
sorry, buddy.
Nelly's all like, yeah, it has its moments. It's all right. That's whatever. No, seriously, I wasn't the pool boy, but thank you for noticing me though, 86. That shows me where your mind
you can't get anything by him.
Yeah, you can't, you can't get anything by him. So I like Paul what was saying, what is that though? What do you like? What did you do? Like,
what did I do for what?
I'm talking about the artistic, but the question you asked her.
He asked.
Oh,
if,
did they see the ghost cat at all?
Yeah, they were seeing. They saw like shadows, or they would hear like. One time they took the other two cats to the vet, and the dad came back in from the backyard because he had like a huge art shed in the backyard, and he would hear meowing, and he's like, "Oh, the cats are here," and they're like, "No, we took the cats out." Like weird stuff like that they'd hear.
Wow.
Or like the cat used to scratch like a certain door, like outside the grandmother's door, used to do that. Still some of the sounds, but it wasn't as like frequent. It was like every blue moon it would happen, right? So they were like, and the big question was, they were thinking to themselves, why did it show itself to you? And I'm like,
Maybe
I have
because
no
we could
clue.
see it.
that's the mother said that too. Their mother, Catherine, she said it. She was just like, well, like I think she goes, I don't think you're. I think there's something with you, and I've had people tell me that before. I don't know what it is, but um, I am kind of like I like collecting rocks and stuff. I'm a little Wiccan-y, so I don't know, but um, yeah, they've and they're hyper religious, so
Wow.
they were just like they didn't know if the cat was in purgatory or something. They were talking about it, and I'm like, I don't know, right? But yeah, they saw things here and there. They also saw people walking around the house. They saw shadows. They actually had the kids, they'd been there for most of the kids' life, and they actually had an incident with the middle son, and they actually had to get a priest in. Um, and I didn't know this till like after the cat, they told me, and because they started telling me about the house, and I'm like, oh great. So I've been sleeping in like a haunted, demented house, and they're like, well, kind of. And they told me that they think that when the middle child, which was the boy, um, when he was little, he was talking to something up in the corner of the ceiling. And I don't like talking about it because it gives me the creeps when they told me that. And they're like, and I'm like, was this in your room? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, okay. And they had
Yeah.
to get the priest to come in and like, they thought, because they were like, that's not,
Mm-hmm.
because he said, oh, was it whatever it was? He goes, yeah, it hangs on the ceiling and it's upside down in the corner. And I'm like,
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, what is it? And he goes, I don't remember. Like he goes, I was like a toddler or something when it happened. And I was just like, great. So you got something in the corner. He goes,
Yeah.
well, they got rid of it. The priest came in. I'm like, doesn't matter. It was here. Right.
Wow.
Like, so you got, you know, they've heard people talking, and it has, again,
Yeah.
it's really, really old house. So I'm like, I didn't go back there for like a while. I was like, you can keep your
Yeah, I don't
cat.
think I would either.
Enjoy your cat, man. Like, I'm like I was
Yeah.
like, no thanks. It's what freaked me out was the fact that I touched it. Because usually most encounters you see something. It's when it's something, it's
Eh,
when it's an extra sense. There's touch, taste, feel, whatever. Like imagine tasting a ghost. That would be great. Sorry.
That'd be pretty
And
gross.
So too bad Josh's not here to throw a comment into that.
and you saw it, and it didn't really look like a ghost, did it?
No, it looked
just
like a
solid.
cat. It was a cat. It
Wow.
was just a normal cat, and that's why I didn't like. You think like, oh, it's a cat or it's a ghost. You're gonna put your hand through it or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or but I was petting it, and I remember looking at it and looking at the details, and it's just, when you're bored or you're a kid, and I can't remember how old I was. I was in high school, right? So you're still kind of like, oh, cats and puppies, and
Yeah.
still kind of at that
I'm
age,
51
right?
and I'm still like that.
I'm like that with bunnies, which is why my name's Artistic Bunny. But
There you go.
in Josh's case, the first time I came on the show, he called me Autistic Bunny, and I'm like, thanks, Josh.
Oh,
But it was an error. It was an error. He just read it wrong. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I like rabbits. So, no ghost rabbits yet, but I did have two other rabbits, and I think they're pretty sure they've passed away. They were given away, and I don't want to have a ghost rabbit, but if my bunnies did kind of visit me later on, I think it's
Mhm.
when I think back at the cat though, I do for sure. I think it was trying to say hello to somebody. It wasn't being malicious or anything, I think it was just saying hello. So, but it was the fact that it was touching it. It's not normal to touch it. Well, you're gone, Josh. We were mentioning that having an extra sense is what adds the creepiness to it. And I mentioned something about tasting a ghost because that would be great. And I said Josh would have a great line for that. So
Yeah, it looks like my brother got. He said it tastes like marshmallows. That's weird. No,
Marshmallows.
well, because me and my brother started doing all this paranormal investigation stuff together. It was me and him originally, and then Anthony got involved, and
The
Scorpion.
scorpion, yeah,
Well,
right.
Scorpion's not my brother. D
Oh.
is my brother, but
Oh, D.
Scorpion's one of my best friends, if not
Oh.
my best friend. But I have a couple people that want to claim that title, so they don't. They're like, I'm your best friend. Okay, all right. So I have 4 or 5 best friends, but Scorpion and me are pretty close. We're like brothers. But him and my brother, we all kind of started it together. But it was me and my brother years ago. Probably, I guess, since the mid to late 90s, we've really been doing this. We started mapping out sightings in the Devil's Backbone in 1998.
Oh,
So
wow.
that's quite a long time ago. We took our first reports of Bigfoot in 1997. So we've been doing this quite some time. Thank you for that donation, Rob. I know that Rob and I go back and forth donating to one another. Rob is a great guy. I love Rob. He's one of my best friends in this field too.
Is that the guy
Boomer.
with the funky hats, with the lion hat or something?
No, he usually wears like bandanas,
Yeah.
and unfortunately he's a Lions fan, but I forgive him. It's like Chris Kramer. He's an Eagles fan, and and Shane Michael Crisp, he's a Niners fan. They have these handicaps, but I forgive them.
I mean,
I forgive them despite
perfect.
their sports handicaps. It's okay.
Yeah.
Their shortcomings, whatever. I forgive everyone. I'm a good person. That's what we do as a Cowboys, Texans, Buccaneers, and Raiders fan. I like all 4 of those teams. The Cowboys and Texans are even. The Buccaneers are probably a very close second, and then my third favorite team is the Raiders. And then, especially now that they're not in that horrible state on the edge of the Pacific, there.
Oh, yeah.
Is this football? Football?
It's hockey.
Oh, hockey. Oh,
It's
I'm
ice
Canadian.
lacrosse.
ice skating.
It's the WNBA.
That.
WNBA.
Yeah.
I don't watch hockey, right?
Well, you know what? It's football. But here's
They
what I'm
don't
going
watch
to tell
football
you.
either.
I don't watch football either. But that's okay. It's mindless entertainment anyway. I played ball for years, and I played basketball, football, baseball.
Yeah.
But then I did track and field only because I wanted to travel so I could be around the girls. And so they were like, well, you got to do something. So I did shot put and discus. And get this, I set the school record for the shortest shot put. It's now been broken. It was broken by my own cousin, but I actually dropped it. And so it was like, oh, hey, you've set a new record. Thank you. It's good deal. And I never practiced or even tried. And the coach is like, you really don't give a crap about this, do you? I'm like, nope, I do not. I just wanted to travel so I could be around certain girls. That's it. That was
Did you ever do
Priorities.
the jump pole? The jump pole, Josh?
I didn't do any of that crap. What is that?
I did the jump
I don't-
pole.
I didn't-
Pole
I didn't
vault?
do
You mean
pole
pole
vault.
vaulting?
And what happened was with me, I did what Josh said with the shortest jump, but I did it with the jump pole because instead of going, I went between the pole and the actual thing, and I landed on the. Okay, so there's the pole, and then there's the landing pad, right? I landed
Matt?
right between, like the space right on the. I was like, great. And I never did it again. I only did it once, right? So I was more of a runner and a soccer player. I did lacrosse.
Oh, lacrosse is actually
Soccer
cool. I had a
player.
couple friends that played in the
So-
lacrosse league. They tried to get me to play years ago. I was like, no, I'm good. I wrestled, boxed, and I did. Those are like singular people sports, but I did a lot of team sports too. And I trained and did all kinds of stuff. And when I remember, and this is for anybody who's into any kind of athletic, whatever, don't take anything. I mean, just take basic supplements. I never juiced. I never did any of that. And I mean, I know not everybody has the genetics to be super strong, but I saw the guys that did juice and I caught up to them and they look terrible when you see them now. I mean, they're horrible.
Yeah.
My dad has told me horrendous stories like over the years because he was reading books. He read like, Arnold Schwarzenegger's Pumping Iron. He did he read all kinds of stuff like, like I think he read like Bret Hart's books and stuff like wrestling or whatever. And he told me the story about, it was called The Man Whose Arms Exploded.
Mhm.
Oh,
And he
Greg
kept-
Valentino.
Yeah, Valentino.
Yeah.
and he kept injecting his arms, and I'm like, when he told me that story,
Yeah.
because I was like a kid when he read that or whatever, and he was like, yeah, and
Yeah.
told my brother and I, and we're just like, yep, we're good, you know, we don't want to. And so yeah, that stuff really does damage to you for sure.
Yeah. If
Yeah,
you
so
want
I
to see
was-
the worst of the worst, look up synthol abuse.
Synthol is terrible.
It's the worst ever.
Straight from hell.
Mm.
I
And,
don't know if I
and for
can say
anybody
that.
who's into the Olympics, let me say this. I gotta say this because there was a big debate going on, and my cousin she's not. Let's put it this way: she's married. She's married to Micah, Bradley's. But she posted something trying to explain the opening ceremony.
Mhm.
I respectfully disagree. They were recreating the Last Supper. They've said that. So people are trying to say, "Oh, that was just a coincidence," or that it was a representation of the Bacchanalia. Yes, it was the Bacchanalia, absolutely. And they said, "Oh, they're doing it because it was Greek, and the Olympics are originally Greek." Whatever. That's a flimsy way to say that because this is Paris. Okay, this is in
Mhm.
Greece.
Yeah.
All right. And I will say this: they have already come out and said that yes, they were recreating the Last Supper, and they did it with drag queens. So anybody who wants to argue that they weren't trying to, no, they knew exactly what they were doing, and that's what they did. So I'm sorry to bust people's bubbles who want to make excuses and pretend like it's not happening. That was a Bacchanalian recreation of the Last Supper using drag queens. Yes, it was. They actually said it. So it's crazy that people are sitting there trying to do mental gymnastics, no pun intended, like gymnastics, but yeah, it literally was. That was what they said they were doing. So
I should look at that because my minor is art history.
There you
yeah.
go.
Got a minor in
Well,
art history.
Well, the
here's a
composition of
little
it
note.
matches the Last Supper perfectly.
Perfectly, yeah.
Mhm.
Here's what I'm going to say: if you are autistic, if you're artistically
Did it
inclined,
again.
I meant artistic. If you're artistically inclined, people, and this made some people very upset when I said this before. I said this in one of the groups, and of course, I'm in about 1,000 of them or whatever. But I was in a group, and somebody was talking about what Jesus looked like, and I said he didn't look like Michelangelo's Jesus. And somebody posted a picture of it, and it was him with a tan, kind of whatever. And I said, in fact, I don't even think he had long hair. And they said, why is that? I said, because his hair was like wool. They describe it in the Bible. His hair would have been very thick and wavy and very Arabian-like. And then his skin would have been more like Anthony's. And I also, I pointed out that representation that a lot of people look at as Jesus, that was Michelangelo's gay lover. Yes, that was he used him as
Because a model.
and now we put him on the cross and crucifixes and everything from Catholic Church using him. And I've said that, I'm like, that's not correct. I told my great aunt that a long time ago that I didn't accept that as Jesus's. That's not who he was. It's not what he looked like. And
I don't remember hearing that when I was in art school, but there was so much interesting facts about Michelangelo.
well, he was homosexual, and he used his lover as his representation. That's who that was.
One of the details stories I do know is that he used to yell at the Pope a lot when he was painting the Sistine Chapel, and because the Pope used to come up and be like, "Hey, like, what's going on?" And he'd be up there for like months at a time. And one time he didn't take his pants off for like 4 months or something. And when they took the pants off, it peeled some of his skin. Because sorry for anybody, doesn't want to think about that. But that's the only thing I remember hearing. But I think I've heard that he was gay, but I didn't hear it was
He was homosexual, yeah. And
yeah, I heard
a
that,
lot of
but I didn't
artists
hear it
are.
was like
I
his
mean,
lover. But again, there's so many different. I study more. I like more of the Baroque artists. I really like Caravaggio. So, but again, yeah, there's so many artists and so many facts to absorb, right? So.
well, here's Melissa Cronenwetter says, right, Jesus was a Jew and he looked Jewish. Well, Jewish people back then was the Judeans, and they were not. They looked more like darker skinned people back then. There were no white Jewish people. That didn't happen until later. And then someone says here, Jesus was not a Jew in the modern sense, and that is actually correct. He was a Galilean, and the Judeans did not accept him as a Jew. That was a big debate at that time. Was like after he passed, when the church in the 100s, they began to argue. You know, there was a big argument amongst the Christians, the early Christians, and Gnosticism took hold, and it was the first form of Christianity. So when people say, well, the Gnostics are blasphemers, they're wrong, blah, 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 I'm like, well, they were the first Christians. I think they would know a little bit about it. You know, they were all slaughtered. Eventually, they were killed because their view did not jive with what they wanted. The church didn't what the Catholic Church didn't want it to be. They didn't want them to be they were in competition with Gnosticism. So what they've done essentially is put together a group of books that even the Jewish rabbis themselves say don't have a whole lot of weight in the Old Testament. They don't. I mean, it's a history book of the Jews, and that says this is a rabbi. I was on a show with him, and he literally said this on another show. He said it's just a loose configuration of books. And
it's not that canonical to them.
Yeah, it's not canonical. They just put it together. The church says, if we put all these books together, and this is what they did, this is the absolute truth. There are Roman historians that can attest to this. I mean, I have a time to go into it right now. But what they did was they hired a bunch of scribes, and they said, put this together and make it fit. And we want to make this canon. And they took out a lot of work, and then they added more work to it, and then they omitted things. Now, the Jewish scribes themselves, when it went from being the oral Torah, which was just the repeating of it, which they memorized, to being, and this happened in Islam too, they will deny it, but this is the truth. I don't care. Why do you think there are Sunnis and there's Shiites? Because Ali and Muhammad, there's a big schism there, but they'll close ranks on you and tell you, no, it's all the same. We all agree. No, you don't, because you've killed the hell out of each other over it for centuries. Don't tell me that it's all the same. It's not true. That is an untruthitude, Your Honor. And every religion does it. They all slaughter each other and say that this is in the name of God. Everybody says God's on our side, and then the other side says God's on our side, and then they kill each other. So what they did was they literally, the Roman Catholic Church Council of Nicaea, they hired a bunch of scribes and said, look, make this fit. Make it fit, and we want to have this as the Code of Deuteronomy is what they called it, and they wanted to have absolute power and control. Strike fear in people's hearts. Now, you can't have the Apocryphal of Peter because it says, hey, hell's not permanent. No, can't have that because that's not good. Hell needs to be in a horrible place of torment forever and ever and ever. So if you rebel against the church, guess what? You go to the bad place for all eternity. So what they did was they said hell has to be a permanent place. The reward is super great. It's heaven. And then the punishment is super bad. It's hell. And so there's nothing in between. And then they said, oh, wait a minute. We have to make concession because there are some people who are not going to accept that. So then, okay, if you're not super bad or super good, then you can be in the middle somewhere, which is purgatory, but you're still being tormented, and then eventually you'll go on or whatever. So they kind of amended it a little bit, but they took out anything that had to do with reincarnation. They took out anything and everything that had anything to do with them not having total control. And if you got really specific, I mean, they took out the Gospel of Mary because she was a woman. And so they did a lot of things that were not correct. And then now you have religious zealots that are like, I believe this because it's the Bible. And they have no clue what the real Bible says, nor do they have any use to learn from that. Because anybody who says something that they don't like, you're an apostate and a heretic, and you're a blasphemer, and you're the Antichrist. And you're basically every bad thing that they can think of. And that's what they've done to me because I've dared to say, hey, this is not correct. And I'm being honest, it's just not. Unfortunately for me, maybe, I don't know, I've read too much and studied too much. So whenever I go and I try to say, hey, maybe you're not right, they're like, you're a blasphemer. And then they want to come after you with the pitchforks and the tiki torches. But the truth is the truth.
Yeah.
This is not correct. I'm sorry.
Knowledge is truth.
Yeah. And Jesus says we die for lack of it. That's the problem. And so we have this really ugly form of fundamentalism that has taken hold in Christianity and in Islam, and people die over it every day. But the bottom line is it's like a star fell from the sky into several different pieces, and each of the major religions grabbed a piece and said, look, I have the truth. I have the truth, and everyone else is wrong. But the truth is, yes, you have a piece of the truth and you are right, but it's incomplete. It's not complete. And if it's out of context, then what are you really holding? And when you tell people, look, you need to look at your brother and sister religions for the truth, they explode. Now, we had a guy on here, Kim, whose family is Hindu. His parents are Brahmin, and they are absolutely hostile toward anything Christian, Buddhist, or Islamic. Now, Tony's mother is Buddhist, and she is hostile towards anything that is not Buddhist, right? You know, my mother was a non-denominational Christian, and she was very hostile toward any other religions and Catholics. My mother was a converted Catholic, and she could not stand the Catholics. And I ended up having to do CCD to please my grandmother and my great aunt. Now, I'm glad I did. I am not a Catholic, but I got to see that side of it. And then I also studied Orthodox Christianity. I've been baptized as a Baptist. I've been baptized as a non-denominational, and I was baptized as a baby as a Catholic. So I've been baptized 3 times. Now, I will tell you this. I have been to the mosque. I have been to synagogue. I have actually been to the Buddhist temples 3 different times. I've been to synagogue 3 different times, and I've been to the mosque 3 different times. Each time was to actually be a part of the service, but I've been to each one many, many, many times to study with and to debate and talk with rabbis, clerics, and monks. And I've talked to many theologians and scholars over the years because religion is kind of one of my side things. And I can tell you right now, everyone believes in their heart that they're right. And everyone tells you the same thing. They always say the same thing. They're like, I was shown a sign. Like, God showed me these signs that showed me that I am absolutely correct. And everybody says that. In fact, our roommate, Stefan, he's Islamic. He says that God showed him, and that's fine. But I explained to him that our neighbors who are Muslim, our neighbors who are from Israel, and our other neighbors who are Catholic, they all say the same thing, that God spoke to them in their heart and told them that this is the way to be. Kiam's parents believe that they are correct. Now, Tony's mother believes that she's correct. Everybody will die on that hill. Sadly, we can't all be right. But here's the thing. The bottom line, and this is the final word from me, is that everybody has a little bit of the truth. And unfortunately, going after one another with swords and spears and bad words doesn't make you right. You can scream it from the rooftops until your eyes bleed. It doesn't make it true.
Yeah.
Jesus never told us, I follow Christ, period. That's it. Done deal. He never said for us to go out and wage war on everyone else who doesn't believe like us. He never said that. I know right and I know wrong. Now, I know that doing a bacchanalian Greco-Roman pagan ceremony and depicting the Last Supper with drag queens is an attack on Christianity. So as a Christian, people that are going to be up in arms about it, they have a right to be. They're going to be obviously upset. There are things that happen that are obviously slaps to the face to certain religions. I've seen them do it many times, but they're all guilty of it. But what's happening right now is not an attack on Christians so much as it is an attack on God himself in Christ. Because God sent Jesus here for a reason, but people misinterpret it. And then they take his words and they spin them around to make it fit whatever narrative they wanted to fit. And so you have this big quagmire going on here. And unfortunately, there's only really one way out, and that's to find the truth. And when I try to find the truth and spit it to people, well, they can't handle it, and they act like giant children. And then they tell me that they actually pray that I die and that animals eat me and all this other weird stuff. Yeah, this is what, and so you're sitting here going like, wow, that's very Christian of you to do that.
Yeah.
But it's not the first time I've had people curse me and do all these other bad things. I don't care. The truth is the truth. And whether I live or die, the important thing is that you know that you're right with God.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right with the one true God. That is the key. So many people are following this image of what they believe is God, and that's not true at all. That's not correct. They worship Jesus, and Jesus says you are not to worship him. Jesus says, I am the Son of God, I am the fulfillment, I am the Word made flesh. He never says that you are to worship him. That is a simple thing. When you pray to God, I've had Christians ask me, and sometimes haughtily, they'll be like, well, how do you pray? I said, well, I pray like this. I say, God, I come unto you in the name of Christ. I ask these things in Jesus' name, that they be done if it is your will. And then I ask for whatever it is I have to ask for, or I pray for forgiveness for my many sins. And believe me, all day long, every day, we all commit many sins. I've had people tell me, I don't. And I'm like, wow, you're a robot. How does it feel to be the world's first amazing robot because you don't commit sin?
I'm not even I wasn't, my dad was baptized. My grandfather was actually Roman Catholic. My grandmother was Protestant. When they got together, both churches had a conniption. Again,
Imagine.
you know, because my poor grandfather, just like wherever he went, when he tried to marry my grandmother, it was like, you know, it was just stop after stop, you know. But my grandfather was very adamant because he loved her. And he told the, and no offense, Josh, he told the church to go stuff it because he's Roman Catholic, she was Protestant. And he goes, we both worship God. I don't understand.
You
So,
said he was from
anyways,
India. What part of India?
I think he asked this last time. It was Nagpur. Nagpur, yeah. And but when I was really young, I did pray to God when I was like maybe up to like maybe age 10. And then when I was a teenager, I started to as I said, I'm more Wiccan. I believe in the mother, the maiden, and the crow, or
How
the
dare you?
I know
Witch!
paganism. I'm
You are
sorry.
witch!
Stop. Cut it out.
So
Cut the shit.
I but you know, like even in my belief is like there's something called the threefold law,
I know.
which is what you do unto somebody else, if it's good or bad, it comes back 3 times fold. And it's like that, you know. And so when you're saying like if people are saying something to you or they're doing something, and it's even in different religions, it's like, you know, don't say things nasty to somebody else or do things nasty in your own religion or whatever and claim to be said good person of that religion when you're not, right? And you know, sorry to anybody to say that. I'm like, but I still have Christian beliefs. Like I believe in angels, I believe in demons, you know. I actually think I might have met one in a dream, so I'm kind of like
Angel or a demon?
a demon. I'm and yeah, so which was I was gonna bring up because I think it has to do with the dream, but I'm kind of like a Christian Wiccan. It's really weird, and the thing
How
about
does that work for you?
I don't people think, oh, Wiccans, they do spells all the time. I've only done like one spell, and it was, or 2 spells, and it was to just to clear the house. It was just like, go away, whatever's not
So
nice.
okay, so let me ask you this. All right,
You
I'm
know.
not trying to disagree or disagree, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't judge people for whatever they are.
Yeah.
But if you're a Wiccan, let me ask you this, and this
Mhm.
isn't trying to offend,
Yeah.
but if you're why if you need to cleanse anything, why not just use Christ?
I could. Yeah, and you know, as again, I still kind of believe in that sort of Christian because I was kind of raised on it, right? So
Mhm.
so I said I was more of like a and Wiccans, it's really weird because I've read like books where there'll be like neo Wiccans, there's like different segments of Wiccans and I they're saying like there's ones that are like I've heard like a Buddhist Wiccan or something. Like I've heard people say stuff like that, and I'm like, that's weird. It's different, but it's like sort of straining into like, you know, different things. And um, again, I don't believe God to be a male. Sorry, I believe him to be or them just I think it's just an energy to me. I think it's just an overall energy. And I think he maybe in other religions he perceived himself as something, right? So in Christianity he's perceived as a male. Nothing wrong with that, right? It doesn't bother me. Um and I hope I don't offend anybody else, right? I and that's why I don't really talk too much about religion
Well,
because I
it's
don't want to
impossible to talk about
Yeah, yeah.
religion without offending.
yeah, and I just don't want to hurt people or scare them or, you
Yeah.
know,
No, I
like
mean, I think God would transcend the concept of man or woman.
yeah,
It doesn't matter. I mean, he, she, whatever. God is infinite. It doesn't matter. So
that's what I think. I
Mhm.
completely I think it's I read a book when I 10 years ago and it was called Eyes of an Angel. And it was about this guy that had a nervous breakdown and he was doing astral projection, which some people think is like good and some people think it's bad.
We all do it,
Um,
whether we admit it or not, or whether we understand it or not. Everybody
Yeah,
does it,
and
yeah.
to me, I have mixed feelings about it. I've tried to do it, but at the same time, it's like again, you're opening up yourself to things. I think you told a story about a guy that was it was a Hawaiian guy or something, and I think it was Hawaiian. It could be South American. It was somebody of not from North America, and he was doing astral projection and something bad came through and it was you that told the story and it gave me the creeps. I was like and he started having activity like poltergeist activity in his house and he went back to the guy that he was talking to. It was like a mentor or like a type of like a shaman or something and the shaman said, oh, like you opened the portal too much or something. It was you that told the story. It was like long time ago. It was like in one of like the first like 50 episodes, I'm pretty sure. Like this is an old episode. You were telling the story and I was like, that's creepy, right? So I have mixed feelings about it and I can't um but like astral projection or but he was doing that in this book and he was saying he believed he met God and but he said it didn't perceive itself as a man on a cloud. He said it was sort of like a light, like a warm
Yeah.
light. And so he
That's
didn't perceive it as a gender. That's I know I'm getting political here. I'm not trying to. I'm sorry. But he didn't, you know, he didn't perceive it as anything. He just perceived it as he called it as the all. That's what he called it. So,
Yeah.
yeah. The problem with where I'm at is that I am going to get attacked, whether I like whatever I say or do. It doesn't matter. I'm going to be attacked by my fellow Christians. I'm going to be attacked by the Muslims because I don't believe a certain way. I'm attacked by Judaism.
mhm.
I'm attacked by every religion, every type of whatever, because I'm saying things that none of them agree with because they can't agree and abide by what I'm saying.
There's things that I don't there's some things that you were saying that I didn't agree, but I don't, you know, I'm not saying it to you or going, oh, you're a terrible person. I'm not saying that because that's the way you believe and that's how you feel. And I don't and
I don't
I
go
don't
by
know why
feeling.
people have to be so angry and mean to each other. I don't understand it, especially with religion. It confuses me. And it's sad. I feel bad for people, and especially for people who are good people, as such as yourself, Josh, because I know this from personal experience. I don't know if you remember, but when I was back on Facebook, this was a couple of years ago, I actually had an episode, personal episode, and you personally messaged me and said, "Hey, are you okay? I'm really worried about you. You kind of made a post, and I'm worried." That's a really nice person. You barely know me, and you were like, "Hey, hey, you're one of my listeners. I'm really concerned." That's a genuinely nice person that's caring, that wants to care about other people, and um, you know, and you saying, like, "Oh, I believe in Christ, and I'm believing all this," and you don't want to be attacked, but you don't want to hurt anybody either. I just wish people were more like that, and I feel really bad for you, and for anybody in that matter, right? Even the people that are angry to other people, you shouldn't be. I know it's not what they agree with or whatever, but if in somebody's religion, if God made it, or said, or religion or Islam, or whoever, if they made if things were supposed to be so easy, wouldn't it be then?
What my belief is this, and it's not based on a feeling, because so many people
Mhm.
say, "Well, I feel it in my heart," or they
Mhm.
say, "I base it on faith," which is what most of these people are doing. But
Mhm.
their faith is intermingled with a feeling. We have a brain that God gave us. There's a reason for that, you know? And the way I look at it is this, okay? I'm never going to judge someone, no matter who they are or what they believe, because people evolve. And the you that is right now, who you are, Artistic
Mhm.
Bunny, and
Yep.
you, Anthony, and you, Paul, you all look at me and each other in a certain way because you have the information that you have. Later down the road, you may have more information about this person, and it may change how you view that person or see that person.
Mhm.
But you have to understand something. There are people right now in this world
Mhm.
who are hating people from their past that no
Yeah.
longer exist. For example, I have ex-girlfriends that I'm not fond of the way that they were at one time, but I haven't talked to them in years. And they
Mhm.
may be a completely different person from when I knew them.
Mhm.
And if I ran into them at an HEB or some festival or whatever, it's been years and years. I don't know them now. The person that they once were, the person that I once was, they may be, those people were not able to communicate and get along, but who they are now
Exactly.
and who I am now could be totally different people. We may be friends. See,
Mhm.
that's the problem. Same goes for my wife. The same goes for everybody. There are people that we think of and we in our past, and we're like, "God, that person was horrible." And in
Mhm.
fact, the guy that I talked about earlier, and I was going to get into something about NPCs because the guy that I was on the phone with, who he does a lot of stuff about how we're in a matrix, things like that. Tony Sanchez, he came up
Mhm.
and talked to me. We weren't always friends. In fact, he fired me from a company we worked together at. And I thought he was an asshole. But when you stop and you look at the situation, the reason he fired me was my own fault because I left the site early. Now, in my defense, I thought that the site ended at 5, it ended at 6, and I dropped my report. And I thought that it really was, I was in my defense. And I tried to say, hey, this is the situation. But all he had was the information from me leaving that site early. And there was another site that I was at where I had gotten into with one of the clients. Now, that site was a horrible place, and I'm glad I didn't work there anymore. And believe it or not, it was a pornographic bookstore, and I only had to work there 3 days, and it was like draw straws, and I was the magic winner that time, and I ended up having to work there. Of course, it wasn't the kind of job you would want to be at, so I spent most of my
Mhm.
time outside, and the owner was like, "You need to be inside walking around in here." I didn't want to be inside walking around it because there's nothing but a bunch of perverts in there, and of course, I spent too much time outside. So him being the supervisor, the information that he had was that I was being quarrelsome with the owner of another site. And then I got in trouble because I left early at another site. So he said, I have to let you go. So I spent, a couple years being angry at him because I thought that he was heavy-handed and unfair with me. And so when I saw him downtown one day and I took a spiteful way with him because I was the boss of a nightclub, and I said, oh, you want to come into our club? I was like, why don't you eat shit? You're not coming in. And I was like, yeah, you fired me unjustly, and I was hanging on to a grudge. That was a 20-something-year-old wolf. That's how he was. That's not the man I am now. Now, we came together back in 2019 when my friend John Kelly passed away, who was a mutual friend of ours. You remember his memorial? And me and Sanchez spent hours laughing and talking about the old days and talking about John. And ever since then, we've been friends, and we stay, we joke around. We have very similar views about a lot of things. He's a police officer now, and we're good friends. So I saw him today at the gas station. Hey, what's up, man? Because the person that he once was, he was a hard ass and kind of hard to deal with, and I was a fuck up. Let's put it that way. I thought I was right all the time. He thought he was right all the time. So you spend years ruminating, feeling like, oh, I don't know if that's the right word, but like you spend years not liking certain people because of something in the past. What you have to understand is the past is gone, and that person no longer exists. The other day, someone popped into my head, and I thought, man, F that person, man, blah, blah, blah. And I ran into one of their friends on Facebook, and I was like, yeah, I felt a certain type of way about that person. They were like, yeah, that person died. And get this, they died rescuing someone in a flood. So, and it happened back during the hurricane in Houston. And I thought, wow, that is not the person I remember. I remember a borderline sociopathic person who I thought was never going to get anywhere in life because they cared about no one. But that person died actually trying to save someone that they didn't even know. So you live your life and you go hurtling into the future. And when you look back on yourselves, and I say selves because there's multiple of you, you continue to grow and evolve and change. There are people who will remember you as this dickhead or this person or whatever you did, or you lied to them. You lied to them and they caught you. That's happened to me. I've lied to people and they caught me lying. It takes a lot to sit up here and say that because people say, you're a liar all the time. They say that. But I lied to someone, and whether it was the best of intentions or not, it doesn't matter. I did it at the behest of someone else. So that person never trusted me again. And then years later, he looked me up and was like, dang, you have a show and you're doing this, you're doing that, you're doing good things, whatever. And he never really forgave me because I lied for his girlfriend. But I thought at the time I was manipulated that she was in danger, that she wasn't. And so I lied for her because my friend talked me into it, going along with something that I never felt comfortable with. And to this day, I apologized. I said, look, man, I thought I was doing the right thing, but the road to hell is paved with good intentions. The road to perdition oftentimes is, we go down that road thinking we're doing what's right. And we wage war on people that don't deserve it. And we wage war on people based on what other people say about someone.
Or believe
what they believe, or a misconception or whatever. If you watch a little clip of somebody, you're like, yeah, I've seen enough. You don't even know what that person's going to say to the end. I mean, let it finish. Some people, you'll look at a post and you'll think, oh, this person's not leaning toward my political affiliation. They're not leaning toward my religious affiliation. They're not leaning toward my ideology. And you don't even know. They might be, and you're snapping it to a judgment. That happens to the best of us. The problem, though, like I said, is that oftentimes those people that we are angry with or upset with, they're long gone. They don't even exist anymore. That person that they're dead and buried, not literally in the physical sense, but they've changed. If someone knew my mother 20, 25 years ago, they would be like, this woman is a battle axe. She's entirely unkempt. You cannot deal with her. She will attack you. She doesn't care. But after she had died the first time, because she's died 3 times, the final time was the final, she died. She died and then was given a new lease on life, and she became a different person, like a 180. You don't say 360 because you end up back where you originally was, 180, But she changed. And it took a while for me to come around to the idea that she was a different person. And I tested her many times and she passed every time. Not like I have the right to test people, but I wanted to know who I was dealing with. Am I still dealing with this person that I was like very at odds with because of her lack of morality and her love of money and other things? And so I was like, maybe she did change, because she was very selective about who she was kind to. And I was never really one of the recipients of her kindness. And Anthony, you can attest to that.
Mm-hmm.
She was very hard on me, and she took and took and took with very little reciprocation. And so she spent the last, I say, 10 years of her life atoning for that. And I was very hard on her. I look back and regret the last few years. I softened up, but it took a long time for me to be able to trust her, or to be, I would give her money and help her financially, but love was something that sadly I withheld because I didn't feel like I owed it to her. Then in the last few years of my life, I'll say this, when Nellie came around, she's like, why do you treat your mother that way? And I told her, I said, my mother has been nothing but cruel to me. And now all of a sudden, the last couple of years, she wants to be friends. Well, I'm not interested in that. I don't need her. I'll help her financially, which I did. I gave tons of money to her. And she never would do that for me. But I learned a very, very harsh and valuable lesson that I've had to carry with me the rest of my life, was that I was hating someone. And really, it's hate, whether you want to call it whatever you want to call it. You're being this vitriolic hatred towards someone, you're whatever. And that person was gone. And I had to face that. I had a dream where, in this dream, I was told literally by a heavenly voice. I can't say it was God. I don't know, an angel of the Lord maybe, but somebody spoke to me and they said, look, that is not your mother. This is someone else that you're hating. You're angry at someone that no longer exists. And it was like an inner voice that comes from within. Oftentimes people mistake that and say, well, that's just my inner monologue. But Jesus said that the kingdom of God is within. And it's a very Gnostic view, but it's the truth. Mm-hmm. And so I had to look and see that the person that I was angry with was gone. And my anger was misplaced, and I owed her a debt. And so for the last few years of my life, I had to tell her, look, I love you, mother. I do. And I'm sorry. And we wasted 6 years of our lives not speaking to one another. Now, there were a couple people who had a hand in that. And even then, I was angry and bitter toward them for years. And I just spit in their direction because of what they did. But even now, I know what I know. There are certain people I don't talk to. Now, there's a reason for that. Those people I know in my heart, and barring some sort of drastic thing that happened like to my mother, they will never change. They're going to be who they are. They are fully committed. As long as the comfort of life allows, they will be who they are. I have given those people chance after chance after chance, and they have just failed miserably. And even being the slightest of kindness. They're not kind to me. They're not kind to anybody. They're only kind when they're getting something from you. Mm-hmm. So at such time, when you revisit that person, and I believe that if it is God's will, they'll put him in your path. He'll put him in your path. And then you have to make up your mind whether or not that person is someone that should be in your life or not. Now, that doesn't give you the right to go walk around and stand in judgment and be like, are you the same person who, you didn't offer me Grey Poupon? You know what I mean? Like, there's people that do that. I mean, they literally act like, like this person isn't, and I'm judging you because you did, you're a poo-poo caca head, and there's people like that. I mean, they really are.
Yeah,
I know this, that people are just people, and they're going to fail you. Mm-hmm. And they're going to say the worst things. Now, there's somebody very close to me who's always saying they can't come back from that. And I say this, Jesus said to forgive. And how many times did he say to forgive? 1,000 times. Mm-hmm. 1,000. And then to infinity, you keep forgiving. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to put yourself out there for them to hurt you. Just like you, okay, Bunny, you're Wiccan. And I will say this, I do not agree with your choice of belief. Yeah. Now, does it work for you? Maybe, maybe not. But if you're going to cleanse something, there's a very simple way to do it.
Mhm.
And that is just to renounce, denounce, say, in the name of Jesus, I rebuke and bind all unclean spirits. This is mine. You have no right to be here. I did not ask you to come here.
Yeah.
You need to leave in the name of Christ. And that's a very simple thing.
And I have done it. As I said, I was Christian when I was younger, and I still kind of believe it in some sense. I'm kind of mixed. I am Wiccan, but I'm not like like hardcore Wiccan. So
What makes you feel like you need to be Wiccan? Like what is it that it does for you?
it's the earth. It's also it's more women are drawn to it.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Personally, and but it's more the earth. Um, I like to collect rocks. I believe that there's an energy in the earth. I also believe in science. So I do jump around in my beliefs. It's sort of like a what do you call it, like a stirring pot sort of things, I so yeah, it's more of like, but when it comes to the Wiccan, it's more of it's I'm not doing spells all the time or whatever. I've only ever done like two or whatever, or I've lit candles, like spell candles, but other than that, no. Um I believe in angels and demons. I think I saw a demon. Uh, I really makes me uncomfortable. I had a dream. Can demons enter your dream? I had my friend tell me
Absolutely.
this. Okay, I asked this, and it was a reenactor friend, and she was very religious as well. And she goes, "Oh yeah, they can go through your dream. They can go through all kinds of things." And so, but I just wanted to double check because that was a while ago. So, but yeah, I do believe in angels and demons. My friend from high school told me about it. Her guardian angel. That's another story I should tell you about. That's really creepy. But so yeah, I've had somebody, and I believed her. Yeah, I completely believed that she had a guardian angel. I think I have a spirit guide. I don't know. It could be a guardian angel because I believe in mixed things. I guess I just go to, the energy, the natural sort of things. I like the earth, the idea of the earth and science and um, uh, believing what you can see most of the time, but at the same time not. I'm sort of a mixing pot of things. But yeah, I did see. I'm pretty sure I saw a demon in my dream, and it makes me really uncomfortable when I talk about it. So
What did
yeah,
it look like?
it took the form of something that I love very much, and I told this person that, and she goes, "It did that to take your faith out of something." And that's what they do. And uh, when I was a kid, I had a very similar story to you, Josh. I don't have a very good reputation, not reputation, very good sort of standing with my mother. I don't talk to her, and so I was a very odd child. I was very eccentric. I still am very weird and eccentric, as you guys probably have figured out. And I didn't. I don't make friends well. I didn't make friends well. It goes into adulthood, whatever. So I sort of honed in on. I really like television shows, like you, Josh. You like sports or like stuff, and
I like
I like
everything.
I like TV and stuff and pulp culture and stuff like that. And there was one specific show that I grew up with. I had a very strong connection to my dad with it. My dad watched it as a kid. It's a very old show. It's a British show. Um, I'll just say it is Doctor Who. I used to love Doctor Who when I was a kid.
Mhm.
And
Pretty cool concept.
obsessed with it. I was just obsessed with it. Um, and I used to talk about it all the time. I'd wait for somebody to talk about it. I really liked the Doctor. It was like, the 10th and the 11th Doctor was the ones I was obsessed with. My first Doctor was the 4th, saw it when I was really young. But anyways, so in this dream, I woke up and I said this before, I have very, very vivid dreams. I had a dream in color, and sometimes I dream in sepia, and sometimes I dream in black and white. I don't know why. My grandfather told me. My grandfather reads all the time. He's kind of like you, Josh. He's reading stuff about history, aviation, all the time. Stuff about science. He reads stuff on math, and but he told me he read something about brain waves or something, or dreams, and he said that people dream in color are more um creative or something, or he was saying something like that. They were doing studies or whatever, and I went to art school. I did art and everything. And this dream, when I went to sleep, I have these dreams where I wake up and I think I'm awake, and I'm not. And this was one of them. I'm a grown adult. I still sleep with the light on. Really embarrassing. Because I think there are things in the dark. I honestly believe that,
Oh, yeah.
You're
especially
not wrong about
There
demons.
are.
They like to sit
They
in the
hide in
dark.
the shadows.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it scares me. I used to see shadow people when I was a kid, and they would stand at the foot of my bed, and they would particularly guard the door, so I couldn't exit. And I don't know if it was me imagining it or if it was a ghost. I have no clue, but I was very young, so I can't confirm that. But in this dream, I woke up and the lights were off, so I start panicking immediately. And at the foot of my bed, I realize that there's somebody standing there, and it's sort of the outline of this one of the characters that I very much love. This character, when I'm very upset, you know, I watch the show, or you talk to yourself like, what would it be like to talk to that character? Like you have a lot of faith and love into something, right? Some people do that with fiction or Star Wars or whatever, God or whatever religion or and uh I do it with this character or these characters because I love them. It's just me just daydreaming, blah blah blah. So I wake up and this sort of outline figure of this character's there, and I know it's this specific character, but it had red eyes, and it was growling at me, and it was not growling like a dog. It was like inhuman growling, and I'm like, and his face looked deformed.
Mm.
And I was like, and it was going like this at me, like, and I'm like, holy, like, pardon my language, I'm like, holy crap, like what, and I start panicking, right? And I woke up in absolute terror, and I woke up in the lights were on or whatever, and I actually had to take that poster down of that character because I was so terrified. I couldn't look at him. And I went, and it was the next day, and I went to tell this person that was religious, and she goes, that was a demon. And she goes, it went into your dream, and it's trying to take your faith out of something that the love out of some of your faith in something. Because typically when you're scared, or you love something, you draw to something that makes you feel safe, or you love it or whatever. And she goes, whatever it was, she goes, and she goes, I'm pretty sure it was a demon because that's what they do. It took the form of it, and pardon my language, it bastardized it. It made it like demented, and it tried to take my faith out of it, tried to scare me away from it, because especially at that time of my life, it was a very dark time in my life. I was not dealing with things very well. And she goes, yeah, it took advantage of you. She goes, that's when they come in. They come in when you're weak, and then they try and take your faith, and then they come and try and take your soul. Okay, and she goes, it's oppression, and then if it continues, it becomes possession, right? Which is in the Christian, and I do believe in that, right? That I do believe in that sense of the Christian sort of mentality of oppression and then possession, right? And I think this thing tried to enter my mind or my dream, tried to dement something that I wholeheartedly loved, that I'd been watching, or I had a lot of faith in. Didn't have a lot of friends, and this was kind of like putting my faith and my love into something, and it tried to scare me away from it, so I didn't have any faith in anything. And she goes, yeah, it was trying to oppress you. And then she goes, if it worked, it would have oppression, infestation, and then possession. Yeah. I didn't I heard the infestation before, but I heard oppression and then a possession. But yeah, and this thing definitely scared me. It made like a demented version of it, and I've never, in my whole brain, I'm thinking to myself, why would, if I was dreaming of that, why would I dement in my own dream, why would I dement something that I absolutely love? That's not a thought that I put together. That was something, and I couldn't control myself in my dream either. Sometimes I can, and this I couldn't. It felt like I was being held down. I couldn't, and it wasn't even touching me either. Just I felt really like pressured. It felt like somebody was like sort of putting their hand down on my chest, but there was no, you know how like a sleep paralysis demon, they think that like sometimes somebody's sitting on your chest
Hmm.
or something crawls on you, but there was nothing there. It was at the edge of the bed in the dream, but it was sort of leaning over and sort of like like making gestures at me, like growling. And I've never I didn't sleep for like 2 days. I'm telling you, and I never, hope to God, I never, sorry, God, I hope to whatever, I never experience that again, because I'm pretty sure it was not something normal. And it felt very evil. It felt very nasty. And I actually, again, I had to take the poster down because I couldn't look at that character. And that person told me, said, no, put the character back up, because that's what it wants. That's what it wants. It wants you to lose your faith in it. So I had to put the character back up, and I got used to it again. And I'm like, oh, he wouldn't do that. So yeah, whatever it was very nasty. And I don't know if you've ever heard of dreams like that, Josh, but
Hmm.
It's really weird that you bring that up, because just last night I was having a dream, not vivid at all, but I remember not being able to move or anything, and it felt like something really, really evil was getting me, and I don't know if I was dreaming or if I was awake or what, but I remember trying to yell and I couldn't, and then all of a sudden, in the name of Jesus Christ, stop touching me came out. And again, I don't know if I was dreaming this or if I said it. And I woke up and I felt like there was something really,
the
really
room.
negative in the room, but I couldn't move. And then next thing I know, I'm asleep again, and I wake up later. And listening to your story, I really hope to God I don't, have sleepless nights after this.
Yeah,
But
like I've had another instance where I saw a demon's face, and I don't know if it was something similar, or because at one point I thought something was following me, because I was hearing growling in my room at like 2 or 3 in the morning, which is the witching hour, right?
Very
Or
cool.
the
Yeah.
and
which is the
this
mocking of
was
the Trinity.
around 2 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. Yep.
And that's when they come out, especially demons, right? Because that's the mocking of the Holy Trinity. And
Yeah.
I'm like, and I would hear this, and I'm like, I'm like, what? And I believe in that. I'm like, again, because I believe in, again, I'm partially mixed in what I see and believe. And I'm like, okay. And that was actually around the same time, in the same sort of years. It was, and when I was after, it was like late high school, and actually right after high school, I had a nervous breakdown. I actually locked myself in my house for 3 months. And so I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but Another dream that I had, and it was again in that vicinity. I woke up again, and lights were on this time in my room, and I was like, okay, and I rolled over, and I had this really old TV, just an old-fashioned TV, and I used to put like the old um controller that was passed down to me just to play, but I left it in my room. I hadn't used it in years, and I rolled over, and it's this small little TV screen, and there was this really grotesque like face in it, and I was like, it had like teeth, and you know what it kind of reminded me of? The thing from Jeepers Creepers.
No, that thing's ugly.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah, and I hate that movie. I hate that movie. Hate it. And I woke up, and I felt like my door was open, but I felt like there was something outside the door. Like it couldn't get into the room. And I didn't want to leave my room. And I'll just say that. And and I don't tell like my dad this stuff, because I think I mentioned this last time on one of the other things. Like my dad's like one of those people, again, my brother, when I told you the story, they don't like hearing this stuff, right? Really
Yeah, there's a
freaks
lot
them
of
out.
people that are like that.
Mhm.
They get very uncomfortable.
Yeah, my dad
It scares them.
yeah, well, my dad had an incident with somebody that died in our family, and that one goes into another ghost story, because again, we've had all kinds of stuff happen. But yeah, I didn't really tell my dad anything, because but now I haven't had anything like that happen. When funny enough, I actually made sorry, this might be blasphemous to you or to other people. I'm actually made a pentacle, and if nobody knows what a pentacle is, there's a difference between a pentacle and then a pentagram. A pentacle is upright. It points to the heavens, points to the stars. It means good. If the star is pointing down, that's
A pentagram.
pentagram. And if I,
You know, there's no difference, though, don't you?
that's not what I've been told, but
Oh.
it's if the star points down, I've just been told it's bad.
Well,
So
here's the thing. If you make a pentagram, a
Mhm.
pentacle, pentagram, either one, it doesn't matter. It turns any which way you want to turn it. It doesn't matter. It's like the swastika. People say, well,
Oh,
Hitler
no.
took it and turned it the opposite way, and that's not true. There is no right or wrong way to turn a swastika.
Oh.
And like I've said before, I've given my opinions on what that was all about.
Mhm.
I also don't believe in the six-pointed star either. You're not supposed to use it because it says it in the Bible.
Mhm.
And I don't mean just the Bible, but it
Yeah.
specifically says in 2 Timothy that it was built, that star was on the temple of Remphan. Remphan, now there's debate amongst scholars of who or what he was. For my money, he was the grandchild of Moloch, and he built it in honor of Moloch, who was a real being. At one time, he walked the earth with human legs. So did Remphan, and Remphan was a Canaanite king who actually, some believe that he was part of the bloodline of the Israelites, but they called themselves Israelites later. See, because they were Canaanites, they were actually they were enslaved in Egypt. They became Hebrews because the word was called Hebron, and Hebron was just basically meant like outsider or invader.
Mhm.
Later, over the centuries, it changed into someone who was quarrelsome and troublemaking and deceitful, and it was kind of like calling someone from Mexico that bad, such and such back, like that's what it is. It became a derogatory term, but it was also used to mean those that came from beyond, which was the land of Canaan, the land of beyond, also known as the land of Nod. People will argue with me all day long about because it's what they want to believe or they feel a certain way. It doesn't matter what we want or what we feel. It's what is. And so, anyways, they are not to use that symbol, but they use it.
Mhm.
Anyway. And I will tell you this, the pentagram, the pentacle, the six-pointed star, the swastika, they are all very, very powerful symbols.
Yeah, I agree.
Can be used for many different things. Now, I will say this. I am almost 100% on this. I believe that the pentacle or pentagram was the seal of Solomon, not the six-pointed star.
Mhm.
I have my reasons for that. I believe that that was why, and it is why, when you do some sort of magic or incantation, or people who were so inclined to do that,
Mhm.
they make that circle. What's funny to me is how many people actually are stupid enough to do it in the dirt or do it with ash or salt.
No.
You can just kick dirt
No.
Because
No.
demons will just go, and then they'll step right out of it. And I've been in a house where somebody had done something that stupid. And let me tell you something. Nothing happened to me there. And they didn't do it when I was there, but they used black ash from cedar wood.
No.
And they said, look, this is what we're going to do. And I said, look, this is what I'm doing. And I left. One of we were children. I was 13 and one of them was 12. And the other one was 14 and all the way up to 15, 16 years old. One of them was choked and lifted up on a wall. Now, I didn't see this. My friend Randy did. And I grew up with him and I was like, what in the hell? Why would you allow them to do that in your attic? Well, it wasn't his house. It was another person, but it was a guy named Barry that I grew up with too. And I was like, why on God's green earth would you allow that? Well, you're teenagers. You don't know any better.
Mhm.
But this demonic entity basically blew the ash right away. The candles blew out and somebody was nearly choked to death. This is what happens when children play with things they shouldn't play with. This is why we are nothing but children, because even if you're 50 years old, like me, I'm almost 50.
Yeah.
These demons that you're messing with, they don't have to live broken up lives like we do.
No.
And they live concurrent lives, and they could be as old as 10,000 years or 20,000 years or whatever.
Yeah. They're ancient beings.
Yeah. Now, and if you're dealing with the fallen and the archons, you're dealing with these beings that are
like the Leviathan, right?
they're like their lives could be in the millions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
no,
when they move
I
in and out,
haven't conjured. I don't do any of that. No, what I did was I used a metal thing and I don't put it downward. I do not put it downward. Actually,
it
one time
doesn't
it
matter.
fell,
It really doesn't matter because
but
the
in
concept. Look, I'm going
Wiccan,
to tell you this. Let me tell you this. I
Mhm.
got to say this. Right?
Yeah.
Not to be argumentative. I just want to tell you this.
Oh no, I
The
understand.
concept of up, down, left, right is man-made. It is a Cartesian math. You know what Cartesian is?
Yeah, we've used them in art. Yeah.
Yeah, I know you because you're an artist, so you know
Mhm.
Descartes, right? He created the
Mhm.
I'm going to tell you this: it doesn't really exist. The only time you will see up and down, straight, and this and that, all those straight lines do not exist in nature. Folks, go outside, do yourself a favor. Bring me something that was naturally made that is Cartesian, and I will give you $1 bazillion because it doesn't exist. You know why? Because the world that we live in was created by sound, light, and vibration. God spoke everything into existence.
Everything's
That's what
organic.
Yes, everything is organic. It's, there is nothing that is like this. There's nothing that exists that way. So the trick is that if you have an up and down, left, right, there is no such thing, really. Everything is like this. Everything is a spiral. Everything is a swirl. So the trick, the way they trick you is that, well, if you turn it this way and that way, that's why it's so funny to me when they say that they inverted the swastika. When you go into Anthony's mother's house, she has swastikas in the house.
I mean, Tony.
I'm sorry, Tony's mother's house.
Yeah.
She has swastikas hanging up on the wall. You're like, dang, your mom's a Vietnamese neo-Nazi. No, that's a very modern concept. That is not real, first of all. Those swastikas are mandalas and they spin, and it doesn't matter which way it's facing, and it represents the swirling rays of the sun, the life-giving, heat, the warmth. And so what happens is people get hung up on this, whether it's upside down, sideways, or backwards. Now, Let's take the pentacle, for example. Listen to what I'm going to tell you.
Yeah.
If you were to turn it sideways, what is it? What does that mean?
I don't know.
That's a riddle, isn't it? Well, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything, whether
Yeah.
it's upside down or backwards. That is a human-made concept because demons don't live upside down, sideways, or whatever. So if you were to take this, let's just do this, for example. This is a Houston Astros hat. It has the star.
Yeah.
When you set it on your dash in the truck
Mm-hmm.
and you look at it in the truck, guess
Yeah.
what? When I stare at it through the window of my truck, the star is upside down. And I'm driving along and I'm like, wow, I have a pentagram right there. You know, there it is. And so, you know, but does it mean something to me? No, it doesn't. Now, could an outside force or being or person or entity look at that and say, that means something to me?
Mm-hmm.
If a neo-Nazi were to walk into Dow's house, they would be like, wow, there's swastikas and they mean something to them.
Mm-hmm.
Symbol of anger, hate, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
To the Nazis themselves, the National Socialists, it was a symbol of hatred for communism and a symbol of hatred for capitalism and a symbol of hatred for Zionism, supposedly.
Mm-hmm.
What I say supposedly is because there is an argument that has waged for a long time, albeit a very hot button issue, that some of the Nazis were actually Jewish and back and forth, but not real Jews. They were actually Khazarian Ashkenazi, which is odd that the word Nazi is at the end of that, Ashkenazi. See, it's very weird. Hitler, I believe, along with Eichmann and Goebbels, and maybe many others, maybe even Himmler, I don't know, they had that bloodline, but it was a Khazarian bloodline. They weren't true Jewish people, as in the sense that Jesus says in Revelations 2:9 and 3:9, and that is a controversial book too. It made the cut because it scared the crap out of people. Jesus says, he says, you suffer under those who claim that they are Jews and they are not. You suffer under those who are not really Jewish people. He says they claim this bloodline.
Mm-hmm.
He says it again in 3:9, and what I've said this before, and what he's saying is that these people claim a heritage, a bloodline that's not really theirs. Now, that's very potent when he says that, and he says, he goes, you are not your father is not my father. You are of your father, who is Satan or the Shaitan, and you're of the house and synagogue of Shaitan. His father, he claims, is the ultimate creator of everything that is. And then people get caught up on Genesis and they get, you know, who created what and why and how and what. Like I said before, all that really doesn't matter. The bottom line is what is,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and everything comes full circle. Friends become enemies and enemies become friends. But as long as you stay true to yourself,
Mm-hmm.
those you really love, that the betrayal doesn't come from you, right? And that you love for God. That's all that matters. Because when you commit a sin against someone, think of it this way, folks. Think of it as that you're doing it to Jesus. Think of it as you're doing it to God or to the Virgin Mary or to whatever person or being. Would you do it to the Archangel Michael? Would you smack him or spite him, or would you talk bad about any of these beings that you hold in high regard? And if that doesn't work, what about your own family? What about your grandparents that you loved, or your parents, or your children? Because do you hold them in higher regard than you hold your enemies? So you have to think about this when you're going against someone. Before you speak out against them and bear false witness and say all these horrible things, look and replace that person with someone that you love. And then do it. Because Jesus says, when you do this to the least of us, you do it to me. So that is the question. It's not even a matter of whether you believe in this religion or that religion. That's not important. What is important is the intent. Now, I'm going to ask you this, young lady, and I say young because you're a lot younger than me. You're a very, very young woman. I know when you're 30, people are like, 30-year-olds trip me out. They're like, I'm getting old. What am I going to do? My life is changing. Oh, my gosh. I'm like, you're not even middle-aged yet, kid. Calm down. All right. Me and Paul are over here like, dude, please, you know.
Yeah. Talk to me when you have an artificial knee.
Yeah. I always say I wish I could have turned 30 and stayed there and never, because you're now
No.
respected enough to talk amongst adults and not be laughed at. But
Yeah.
you're still good looking enough to be, oh, that person's, you know, a decent looking person. And once you get to be 40, 50, people are like, oh, I like hearing you, but don't look the way you do. Don't look the way you do, you know. But I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say it's very important. It's
Mhm.
very important. It doesn't matter, really and
Mm-hmm.
truly. The bottom line is this: it's the intent of what you have in your
And
heart.
and when I made the purpose of it, and it's been a while since I read up on it, because before, when I did make it, I was told, and it says, I was reading about it, never wear a symbol without understanding it. And and I do believe that's what you're saying, with the intent of something, of doing something. And I think that's what the whole idea some people do with the upright and the downright. It's the upright that they want to make good intentions.
Mhm.
And that's what I did with it. I don't want to do anything bad. It's a powerful symbol some people use for protection. And that's the only reason why I made it. I don't use it on anybody, I don't do it for anything. I use it for a space because I don't want anything going near me.
Yeah,
Because I was having
that is
bad
not a
dreams.
symbol that you want to use for protection, because that symbol is also an invitation. Yeah. I'm gonna say this, that symbol is used on a lot of things.
It
So
is,
you
yeah.
really don't. I'm gonna make a suggestion, and you are a grown person. You can do what you want,
Yeah.
but you can't serve two masters. Okay, and I'm gonna ask you this
Oh, I don't
kindly,
want to.
to reject the pentacle, reject the pentagram,
Mhm.
reject all of those symbols. Do not use them in any shape or form. Now, I would take it a step further. Some people were talking about the upside down cross. The cross, there are saints that were crucified upside down.
That's true. Yeah.
Now let me say something about this. The Romans did this as an insult too. Some people say that certain saints, different ones that were crucified, and they said, I want to be crucified upside down because I'm not worthy to be crucified as Jesus and all this other stuff. I don't really believe that. I'm not really one of those people that buys into that. The Romans would do that as an insult. Now, in particular, the Romans like to do that to other Romans. Like if a Roman centurion or someone was crucified, they would make a distinction as this is a Roman. Now, if the Roman did something that was determined to be so egregious that they had to be crucified, because crucifixion typically was held for non-Romans. But if you made them mad enough and they had to crucify you as a Roman, then you were marked. Okay. So there were different punishments that they would use, and some of them were quite brutal. And they were never more brutal than they were to themselves. They held themselves to a very high standard. Just like the Vestal Virgins, if they were caught breaking their vows, what they did to them was horrible. I'm not even going to get into it. But there were many things that they would do. Brazen bull was one of them, something that had come from the Assyrians way back. They used it too. And when you would crucify someone upside down, so it doesn't really matter. The cross itself is just a symbol of Roman execution, right? It doesn't really have a lot of meaning, but we give it meaning and power by adding something to it, the intent. We use it as protection. And you see, I'm wearing right here on my chest. You know what this is. What is this?
The Saint Benedict medallion.
Saint Benedict. Now, he's on the back of it, right? So that's what that is. It's a protection. Now, demons know what that is. They also know what a pentagram and a pentacle is. And it doesn't really matter which way it's turned, because they don't observe up, down, left, right. They actually exist a right angle from us. So you're not dealing with something that looks at the world in the sense of the Cartesian, math. They don't care. It doesn't matter. Just like I put my hat on the dash, and I see that the hat in the reflection is upside down. The star becomes upside down.
Hmm.
So it doesn't matter whether I'm wearing it one way or the other. The intent is what really matters. But when you're using something like that in an inversion, okay, and this is most important,
Hmm.
you're also giving it an opening because there's always a flip side, right? So use something that there is no flip side to, and that's Christ. There is no flip side. There is no inversion. You know what the inversion? Someone was on the show last week and he was talking about the inversion. You know what it was? Lucifer.
Hmm.
So that is the shadow. Like if you were a Zoroastrian,
Mhm.
you would be observing the good guy, right? Ahura Mazda, and the bad guy would be Angemanu. But it doesn't matter, okay? Because the other guy is the absolute opposite of the good guy. So some people believe that they're achieving this Kundalini balance by observing both. No, what ends up happening, the darkness always tries to devour the light. It doesn't have any respect for the light
Hmm.
until such time as the light begins to fight back. What happens over and over again in history and in life and in everything we do, a little drop of ink turns an entire page black. And darkness, it always takes all it takes is a toehold, a little drop, and it turns everything dark. It's just the nature of the way it is. It eats it. But by the same token, once that page is completely black, all it takes is a little white out and it becomes white. See, that's the balance. But you want to achieve what you want to achieve because in the sky that's completely dark, a star that could be millions of years away, if you believe that way, some people don't, that light shines through and you see it here from millions of miles away. So that little beacon of light is all it takes to stand against the darkness.
Yeah.
When everything is still dark, there are people who do this automatically. They just go to a place where they're like, well, everything is just, hopeless, and let's just start digging a hole and make it deeper and let's crawl in it. When all it takes is a thimbleful of faith, a thimbleful of light, just a little bit, and it will become a beacon for those others that are disenfranchised, for other people who are dissidents of the current systems of government that are evil or whatever they're suffering under, whatever regime is in power. And those dissidents can rally around that light. That's all it takes is one to stand up and be strong. It only took one person to stand up and say, hey, I'm not going to take this crap anymore. And others will rally around that. The problem is people don't want to be the first one to do it. So it oftentimes becomes someone who's not wanting to be the leader, but there's somebody who's not going to take the darkness's crap. So they have to be the spokesman or whatever it takes to be the person that says, I'm not going to take this. This has to stop. And they become the de facto leader. They don't want the power. They never ask for it. They're not trying to be the boss. It's just what always falls on their shoulders.
Mhm.
And you know that the people who want power are usually not the ones that are fit to wield it. Because if you were a good person and you truly cared about people's rights and freedom and whatever else, you wouldn't want to be responsible for controlling those people.
Mhm.
See, that's been my role for a long time. I have not asked for to be in charge of anything. But every job I've ever had, with the exception of the few, like I said earlier, when I got fired, and I've been fired from 2 different security jobs. The other one was just plain old, just leaving to go hang out with some friends. I left post, derelict of duty, got fired. And then I ended up working with that guy for years after that because I promised him I would never, ever do it again. And I didn't. So that was it. I've been fired twice from 2 different companies, but I've worked for a multitude of companies and haven't been fired. Because I learned my lesson as a young man, not to do those things. But I also learned to be forgiving to a degree because I know what it's like to be young and reckless and make bad decisions.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
also know what it's like to stand and judge people when you're standing in an anthill getting bit by ants yourself and you're pointing at someone else. That's human nature. And when you get to be the age that I am and that Paul is, then you're supposed to be adult enough to know hey, we all make mistakes. I mean,
Mhm.
it is what it is. But I'm going to tell you this.
Yeah.
If you take the time to stop and look at your life, has being Wiccan improved it? Has it made it better? Or is it something that you could get by without by just following Christ and rejecting these other things? Because really and truly, Jesus is a one-stop shop. You don't need all these other things.
Mm-hmm.
You don't. You don't need to cast spells, because if you pray to God through Christ, those things will come to you if they're meant to come to you. Because I
Yeah.
know the law of attraction, and I know all these other things that people will talk about and do and say. But at the end of the day, you have to understand that if it is meant to be, then it will be. But it has to be in God's time.
Mm-hmm.
You can't rush things. Now, I know this. When I stopped being a bad guy and stopped doing all the bullcrap that I was doing for several years of my life, I wanted to rush things along. I told God after 2 years of this, I'm like, okay, God, literally, I was like very arrogant and still not getting it. And I was like, God, I've been suffering and I've been working at this hot parking garage. Why don't you give me something? you know? And I felt like God literally squeezed me. Like I felt the Holy Spirit come over me, and I cried. I'm an emotional person at times, and I have been overwhelmed with emotion. And I said, oh, okay. It was like God speaking to me and says, really, you should be dead or in prison. And yet you're sitting here with a job, a roof over your head. You have a truck. You have friends, a lot of friends. You have family. You have a lot of things that you shouldn't have. And yet you're crying for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel sorry for the things that you've done? And I had to do a lot of introspecting, a lot of going inward. And I had to stop and go, oh, and I had to admit to myself that some of these people I didn't feel bad about. People I beat the shit out of, people that I took what they had because why not? It was ill-gotten gain to begin with, right? I was a big hero in some people's story because guess what? I was like karma, but it was all intent. Did I do those things because I knew that they had hurt those other people or that I cared that they'd hurt those other people? No. I did it because they ran afoul of me in some way or another. So you weren't a hero. You're a hero in your own story. So the truth be told, I did bad. And I had the intent of doing bad. So I had to come to terms with what I did. And I was still not sorry at that moment. Later on in my life, I became very sorry because not my own suffering, but watching those that I cared about suffer. And I said, this is what's wrong inherently with being a bad guy. Once I learned that lesson, then God said, go to the next level. And guess what? My reward was working my ass off for damn near 3 years. Anthony, you remember, I caught naps in between posts. And you asked me one day, you said, Uncle Wolf, why do you do this? And I said, look, if you want to have anything in life, you have to work for it. God doesn't just hand out free passes. You have to work for it. There were shortcuts. There were ways we could have done things differently. I had already been down that road, and it led to nothing. It was a house of sand and ash. It was nothing. And I didn't have a penny left from the old days. Everything, I had given most of my money away. That's probably the only reason that God let me go, because I did have enough of a heart to give a lot of it away. And I will say this, it was that conversation that I had with Anthony that night. I remember we were working at Child Inc. And you asked me why. And I said, I've done enough bad for 10 men in my life. I'm not going to let myself go on that direction. I'm not going to take shortcuts. I'm not going to leave early. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. And we did not do those things. And then maybe if God feels necessary or he deems it's okay, then you can go to the next level. After 3 years of barely having a day off, God deemed that it was okay for me to move forward, and then I could finally take a break. But then it was still lots of work, and it was just full time from there on out. I worked very hard to get to where I'm at, and I atoned as best I could for the things that I did in the past. The least I could do is share my knowledge of the reality that we live in with people.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you this, the reality is that it doesn't matter. It's the intent. So,
Well, I just destroyed it.
Yeah, well, that's a good thing, because if you
So-
use that symbol,
Right upstairs and destroyed it.
that's a good thing.
Well, when you're talking like that, it scares me, right? And then to my mindset, I'm like, it's no longer served. It's no longer serving its purpose now that I'm scared. Get rid of it.
Yeah.
Because then if I'm scared, then something's going to come in now. Get rid of it.
Mhm. And what will happen is something will come to you for that. And the main reason too is this:
Lovely.
these beings are not intelligent. I mean, they're super intelligent, and
Yeah.
they see that you have that symbol. That tells them one of two things.
Yeah.
You're using it for protection, right?
Yeah.
But they also know that you're using that in place of what? Christ.
Yeah.
And so that is an open invitation to go towards you, because they're like, this person is putting their faith in symbols instead of God.
That's
So they know there's an opening there.
it is and it isn't, because I mean, that's not really what I put my faith in completely. I put my faith
Well,
in
they're still going to test you, believe me.
they will, and they did before with that
Mhm.
character, and
And
if
then-
they
and
try
it'll
and do
happen.
it again, there's a really weird, as I said, I've mixed religion. I'm mixed religion, but if I get scared enough into something, which you just did, I will back away. So, and
You know how many times Artistic and Paul probably can attest to this? I know you can, Anthony, and the audience probably can too. I got the smartest audience on YouTube.
Yeah.
You know how many stories we get from people who will start telling us, and Anthony's gotten to the point where he's like, wait a minute. Okay. Was there some sort of symbol or Ouija board involved?
Yeah.
They're like, well, yeah, you know, but no more. I mean, I don't do that anymore. I just summoned the devil a couple times, and
you know that
Dope Man
like
showed up
Ouija
and
boards
beat my wife. It's like, well,
scare me, or like stuff like that, or
yeah.
even scrying is really dangerous.
Well,
Oh, yeah.
this is a scrying mirror right here. Look, that's
Yeah.
exactly what that is. The eyes are the window to the soul. Pay attention. When
Yeah.
you spend too much time doing this, everything is going into your mind, and the mind is the connection to the soul.
That's true.
What we need to do is start looking at things through the spiritual eye. You know what people do all the time? They see things in their mind's eye, and they go, and they put it out because they think,
Yeah.
that's not real. No, that is very real. That is exactly what you're supposed to be doing, is looking it through your mind's eye. Stay away from glyphosate. Stay away from fluoride. There are certain chemicals and things that they use to literally calcify your pineal gland. Why do you think these reptilians? We had a guy come on our show and talk about the reptilians that bit the guy's head. Doesn't surprise me, because they're eating your pineal gland. It's what they do.
What's that again? I forget.
The pineal gland?
Yeah.
It's in between the two hemispheres of the brain.
Oh, okay.
It's literally what allows you to see. Look, another one Valerie just said, and aluminum, or aluminium, as they say in Britain. They spell it differently. They say it differently because they're British. We forgive them. I'm joking. We're
Crazy
British
Brits.
people. Yeah, they drive on the wrong side of the road, which is really funny. One of my British friends, they're like, "You're the one that uses the imperial system. Nobody uses that. Everyone else drives on the same side of the road." And I'm like, all right, I get it. All right, we're stupid. All right,
Yeah, but this is America.
this is America. All right,
America.
America.
and that's the whole thing.
I like how actual Americans are doing that.
Yeah,
I
it's
thought
funny.
it was just Canadians that made that joke, but it's
So we got a
Americans.
couple other people here. Let me bring on
America.
somebody here. Scott, Third Eye Open, Northern and Alberta, Bigfoot and Paranormal. Hi, Scott. How you doing?
Hey,
Hi,
Scott.
doing great. Thank you. Hi. Can you hear
So,
me?
Scott, yeah, I can hear you. We are coming up to the third hour of the show. But
see
you
that, yeah.
are What did you have to say?
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't realize you guys were running it so long, but yeah, no, I've had tons of paranormal experiences my whole life. I had a near death. Well, I actually didn't know that I had died as a baby. But
Well, that'll do it.
Whoa.
my experience with Bigfoot, um,
Might
they
want
actually,
to
I
turn
started.
the show down in the background. Turn it down.
Okay, sorry, I'll
Is that
turn it
going?
off.
There's an echo. You don't got to
Yeah,
turn it
just
off. Just turn
as
it
he's
down.
doing that, I've heard that people that die have
Yeah.
something that opens up, and so they're perceived to be able
That's
to.
complete bullcrap. You've already had
It
your
is.
time, Artistic. Get out of here.
Okay.
But yeah, no,
She's
I've been-
right,
I've
though.
been able
Yeah,
to see
they
ghosts.
do. People that die.
I've been able to see ghosts my whole life, and like full on apparitions, and communicate with them, talk to them, demons. I've met like all kinds of entities, rakes. I met skinwalkers, Bigfoot.
Well, if you could tell
Um,
me what the rake is, that would be very helpful because I've been asked that about 1,000,000 times, and I'm like,
Well,
every time
it looks a lot like a zombie that they slink along low on the ground, and they have like they're pure white, and they're almost like they're naked, but they're like a troll, like a golem or something. They look a lot like a golem, but they were invisible. I could see into the spirit realm my whole life. I can see these things when they're cloaked fully. Like there's 3 of them right at my front entrance to my property, and they were all cloaked. And I was within 5 feet of them, and I walked right up. And I was on my quad. I pulled up, and they're on the other side of the fence from me. And one of them observed me looking at them, and could sense that I could actually see them, and it instantly manifested into a albino deer, and it was full on manifested like a deer on in our realm. But the other 2 were still cloaked right beside it, as rakes, and the albino deer was just nibbling on the willows right across from me, like directly maybe 5 feet. And I just kind of said, because I've already had a relationship with the Bigfoot that are on the property, so I just said, look, only Bigfoot and beings of light and whatever are allowed on the property. Like, you guys got to beat it. So they beat it. They skittered off across the highway from my property, and but I've seen like I think they're skinwalkers actually too. Well, because I watched them shapeshift, but I've actually had them within 5 feet of me on my front deck as well. I watched one go straight up the tree, following a real squirrel, but it went up the bottom side of the branch, and the bottom side of it just went up backwards to what the actual squirrel did. And it went right to the top of the tree, and it leapt from the top of the tree, turned into a flying squirrel, which we don't have in northern Alberta. And it flew right across the yard, and by the time it hit the ground, it was a white-tailed deer. Like, it was amazing.
Are you in
and I-
Canada?
Yeah, I'm in northern Alberta. Yeah.
Yeah, Canada represent.
But no, I've seen them my whole life, and once I moved out here, they actually reached out to me, and once I met them, like I've never feared demons or ghosts, or I've met angels. I've actually had, well, once I met the Bigfoot in the spirit realm as well. They actually told me that I said, why can I see ghosts? Why do I have? I could see 100 ghosts at a time sometimes, like just a legion of them. And I'm like, why do I see all this? And they're like, because you're psychic, and you can see us, or they want to be acknowledged. And I'm like, well, how come I can't hear them, but I can see them, and they're smiling always. And yeah, and they're just like, well, you're psychic. And first it was through telepathy, where I was getting the download, like talking to them. And then I sat down with, like, what happened was I actually when I first met the Bigfoots, there was well, I could go on and on. There were so many encounters. It's been a perpetual 4-year encounter basically for me. They're still here. I'm still here. I see them every day. But I don't communicate with them anymore, because it turned out that they identified as the Watchers, the Fallen, the demons, and they've been right.
What was this being that identified as the Watchers?
Bigfoot.
Bigfoot.
The Bigfoot. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know why that is?
Well, well, I actually asked them because I started just asking them. I was in communication with them for 4 months, about an hour and a half a night on through GhostTube VOX, and there was 20 of them at once. I was talking to them like on a party line, and I'm an empath my whole life. I know people. I can tell mannerisms just through your speech, through how you talk, through your your aggression, how you act. I can even through the phone. Like I got to know 20 of them by their personalities, by their voice, and on GhostTube VOX, their voices are all different, like English and native and Chinese, and it's just like 20 people talking to me at once on a party line, and it's actually they identified as, first of all, they identified as alien, and then so I think I surprised them when I said, like, giddy up, pull up in the front yard, and I'll come aboard willingly, and they're like, seriously, are you sure? And I said, yeah. And before I could actually, like, they agreed that they would let me see either a portal or a ship or whatever it was. But the GhostTube VOX app that I was using was just a temporary tester thing. So it was cut off after an hour. So as soon as it got cut off, I couldn't use it for another 24 hours. And in the meantime, the Bigfoot on my property had been communicating with me through like putting artwork on my vehicles and stuff, through like pictographs and ice sculptures and words mixed with letters and pictures, and I'd get artwork every day pretty much for about a month. And then and then one day I was out shoveling the driveway out front, and I had a 10-foot tall Bigfoot come out from behind my trailer. He was about within arm's reach of me, and I just turned around and looked at him and kind of like just gave him a nod, turned my back to him, and kept shoveling. And as he was walking away, I said, please leave me some tracks, because for all the sightings I've had, they weren't leaving any tracks or real evidence, just allowing me to get pictures, and I catch it on the CCTV and stuff. But yeah, it's just been a really interesting 4 years that I've been out here. Like, I started communicating with them. They tried to lure me out to the bush to go see a portal, and when I denied them and said, no, it's too many trees under the snow, I'm falling all over the place, I need to have a hip replaced, I'm not gonna be out there falling around like an idiot in the winter in the snow at night. And when I got back to the house,
do you have any idea why they would want you to go outside to be in the portal?
Yes. Well, eventually when I came back in the house and I said, I'm not going out there till spring. I don't care what you guys say. It's not going to happen. Right. And the one, like, it's a long story, but they had been promising me I could go through the portal to the 18th dimension and be one of them, join them, and become a Bigfoot if I wanted to after 3 years inside a dimension. Like, they're really messing with my head.
Yeah,
and
why would you want to be one of them?
Just because I'd been alone for 10 years, and they offered me family, and like they played on everything that they felt. They were in my head, and they were like exploiting everything they could emotionally, like just offering me a family, offering me a forever, like saying that we're immortal. You can be one of us. You have our powers. You'll have a wife and a family. You'll be part of our clique. You'll be with us forever. And and I just said no. I said that when I got back to the house here, the one that I was supposed to be betrothed to or going to be married to, she begged me. She said, "Please convert." And I'm like, "What is convert?" She said, "They said convert from the physical." I said, "You're talking about taking my soul." I said, "That's not going to happen." So I'm not going to become a statistic today. I said, you guys, you're obviously trying to deceive me and take my, you want to take my soul. That's not going to happen. So we're going to cut this talking out, and, I got to get my head straight. And so I did. I cut it down for about a month. And when I turned it back on, they were right back. They switched tactics from trying to convince me to join them now
you-
they're putting me on trial.
Scott,
they
let me
were-
ask you this. Did you send me a story? Did you email me something?
I may have.
Yeah, because
I
I
might have.
thought I remember there was a story that we went over, and we were talking about the Fae pretending to be Bigfoot. Was that you? Something
Could be,
like-
yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
I've actually
Yeah,
I've
I
actually
remember.
seen the little people here too, yeah.
Yeah, that's I remember because okay, so that was a story. That was one because I have multiple of this, and so I can tell you what this is, what that is.
Right.
When you're dealing with these spiritual Bigfoot, whatever
Yeah.
you want to call them, that's not. There are different types. There are these ones that shapeshift, and they go from human to that, and then there's this other one that's called the Adharit. We've talked
Right.
about them, and they can actually shapeshift from a dog man into a Bigfoot. I know this sounds
Yeah,
wacky.
I've seen them do it here. I've
They
seen them
do
do it
that.
here.
Yeah, they actually do that. And we talked about a guy whose name was
I've
Saif
got that on film.
bin Yazan, who was the leader of an army, and he was the Himmerite kingdom leader in the 6th century. And he led an army against these Adharites, and he had to destroy them because they were a type of ghoul that could shapeshift. They were, and it's very weird. There's a lot. It gets real convoluted with this stuff.
When they were showing me the artwork and stuff, they'd even play on shadows, again on like literal shadows on the side of buildings and stuff, and they would show me battles of people battling these giant beings with sticks and spuds.
It's happened over and over again. And actually, believe it or not, we were technologically advanced at one point. And I'm talking about the Techa Yuga, is when the first real battle between good and evil took place, because the Satya Yuga was damn near 100% good, which lasted for a long, long time. The Tacha Yuga, which in the Vedas, it talks about this. And a lot of people say this is a Hindu belief, but really and truly, it is beyond the Hindus. It was before them. There was the Hindi culture, which is the language. Right? This belief goes way back beyond the religion.
The funny thing about these beings was they promoted God and Jesus when they first started talking to them.
Yeah, a lot of people do.
They said,
I have a friend right now who's going to learn. He's going through that right now, but she's a good Christian, and I'm like, sure she is. That's why she's.
Yeah, I wasn't like I
scheme.
lived my life as a heathen. Like I was a drug dealer for most of my life. I spent half my life in prison. Like,
How long were you incarcerated for, if you don't mind?
26 years.
26 years, and so you were incarcerated. I take it, what, in your 20s, in your late 20s?
Yeah, early 20s, and I spent
early 20s,
26 years, half my life. So
wow,
I'm 52, well 53.
What was it, if you don't mind? Was it armed robbery or what was it?
No, marijuana,
Just
selling weed,
drugs.
growing weed.
Yeah.
I got caught with $1 million worth of weed in my car.
That'll do it.
Some people would say you're a baller. Other people would say, "Whoa, you're a shot caller." But now,
it's legal here
that's
now.
what the cop said too. Yeah, and now
The
it's legal
joke
here.
is it's legal here now too.
No,
Yeah, exactly. But no, when they first started talking to me,
You got to head out artistic.
Yeah. Sorry. I'll get off. So I'll let you guys continue. I just didn't want to interrupt him.
Do me a favor. Do me a favor, artistic. Email me some of those other stories, and maybe we can talk and put them onto the podcast. Maybe we can record together.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. If you want. And I will update you if anything happens to me or but.
We need to pray for you. We will, and so do me a favor and email me, and we'll talk. And we can maybe set something up and come back on the show because you have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, I do. But I still have my rocks. They have good energy.
Well, crystals are not the same. A lot of people will argue that, and they don't understand that those are energy. That is a neutral energy that can be used for good. So people don't understand that. They don't understand minerals.
I have over 200 of them.
Well, that's not a problem. What the problem is those symbols.
And they're not here anymore. So
God.
because I got nervous with them. And
are you do you have salvation?
Salvation? What do you mean?
Have you ever asked God? Have you asked Christ to come into your heart and save you from your sins, and then had an open relationship with God through Christ? Have you done that
When I was a child.
when you were a child? But do you feel like, because people have asked me this before, they're like, I'm saved, but I don't know, and so is it okay if I do it again? I said, do it every day. If you feel like you need to reaffirm, it's very simple.
Mhm.
You pray and you ask Christ. You say, Christ, come into my heart and save me from my sins. I believe. The words will come to you. Trust me.
Well, I'm mixed feelings about it.
Well, mixed feelings, but you know what? It doesn't hurt to do it, because you
Yeah.
know what? If you feel it in your heart, you'll feel it when it's time.
Mhm.
But don't. Nobody's promised it tomorrow, so you don't
Yeah.
want to wait around, because you don't want to end up in a place where you're not. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. So sorry to interrupt you, Scott, by the way.
Oh, not at
So
all. Not at all. That's fine.
I'm leaving. I will leave now and
I
let you
enjoyed your
Be
story
continue.
as
sure to
well.
stay in
Thank
touch
you.
with us. Message us, please.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you for
Good night.
having me
Good night.
on, and
No problem.
bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
So Scott, I'm gonna have
Yeah.
to wrap it up with you, but would you be willing to
Yeah.
come back next Saturday? And do me a
Well, of
favor
course.
too. How about you?
Yeah.
Because I know I got a couple of your emails. Can you re-email me so I know that
Yeah.
that's the same?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
you don't
for
have
sure.
to give me all of your stories. We'll talk. I'll have you come back and
Yeah.
we'll talk and we'll do this.
Okay, yeah, sounds good. Yeah.
Okay.
Scott, one question that I have, when they showed you these portals, what do the portals look like that they showed you?
Well, I've actually seen two different kinds, but I didn't actually go to the one that they were trying to lure me to after I realized it was a trick. Because when I was in the bush, like I fell down and I actually heard them say, because when I'm out there, I can hear them talking about me to each other.
Yeah.
Like it's weird in my head because I made that psychic connection with them, and it's he said he's down and he's trapped. He can't get, kind of like we got him kind of a thing. And I was like, whoa, back out of this, get home now, And when I did, it was funny because when I first started talking to them, they said, repent, you have to repent. And they told me what sins I had to repent for, to go to Jesus, go to a priest. And I thought, how can they be demons if they're, because they did identify as demons. And then, but they're sending me to Christ, and it was
Sure they are.
really good.
And what's do you know? I'm going to ask anybody in the audience too. We don't have a real large audience today. We usually have a huge audience on Sundays. But this would be a question. I'm probably going to pose this one to the audience tomorrow.
Mhm.
But do you understand what they actually want from us?
Yeah,
Because a
well,
lot of people have this misconception. I'll tell you what I believe, but what do you think, Scott?
they want to be able to trick you to willingly give up your soul because they can't take it that you have dominion over them in this realm, like whatever demon, ghost, entities, we have dominion over them in this realm in God, like and I've never had any fear of it whatsoever, but they do want you to willingly, they want to trick you out of your soul, like basically willingly give it up. That's the only way they can get it, and then you're screwed. Like you're out of your divine plan, your plan with God, your life's plan or your life's goal and all that stuff. That's all we're screwed. Like that's all they're here to do is mess you up and keep you confused and not focusing on ascending at all or anything like that. They're just more to keep you confused and going in circles.
Yeah.
Like it took Jesus to appear here and tell me that they're fucking lying to me. Oh, part of my language. But for them to appear and tell me that these demons were lying, and that's when I realized that I must have a divine purpose to be able to see these shit. And why would the fallen approach me and then identify as the fallen? Like,
Well, I can tell you this: they have multiple reasons, but the overarching main goal of all these beings is really simple. A lot of people think that there's this huge intergalactic war, and they think that there are two sides, and that's it. And then there's all these good guys and all these bad guys, and they're all like real organized and all that. Some people believe that. Some people believe that there's this huge spiritual war.
Yeah.
Same thing, organized, blah, blah, blah. And then some people believe that there are just varying factions of good and evil and blah, blah, blah. It's the truth is somewhere in between. And I'm going to say this.
Mhm.
If you die and you're not in Christ, which is the only way to the Father, not to
Yeah.
heaven. There's a difference, okay?
Oh yeah.
This
No.
is a different thing here, okay?
Mhm.
But the only way back to the source is through Him, right? In this world.
Right.
In this world, that's all we know of,
Mhm.
okay?
Exactly.
I can't speak for every other dimension and world. I know this one.
Right.
And
Right.
I know that these beings
Mhm.
will use you as a human battery. They will
Oh
use
yeah.
your
Energy
soul as
vampire.
energy because your soul has an infinite amount of energy and it's very valuable. You have a little spark of God in you. We all do.
Right. Yeah.
That spark has an infinite amount of energy. It never dies. It never is destroyed. The only thing that will be destroyed is your consciousness.
Right.
Now, that
Right.
we call the second death. God is able to do that. He is able to take you and wipe out your consciousness, which is the death. Then he'll turn your energy into something else.
Right.
That is the divine judgment. What we have, though, are beings who want your soul because they can get energy from it. It's like food to them.
Right.
Everything in our world is things that are being eaten and things that are eating.
Right.
I
Okay.
know that sounds very simplistic, but
Right.
that is the truth. You have
Yeah.
predators and prey, and all
Eat
predators.
or be eaten. Yeah. Right.
That's what it is. And so your soul is a type of energy that is actually food.
Right.
And so, having been in prison for 26 years, you would know this. It's
Right.
predatory behavior.
Yeah.
Everything breaks down into that. Plants, you wouldn't even think of as plants. People that eat vegetables are like, I'm only eating vegetables.
Oh yeah.
You're still taking a life source.
Yeah. Everything has conscience. Yeah.
Everything has it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, what's really crazy is that these beings that they want to be able to take you into their realm and
Yeah.
where you're helpless and they can feed on you
Right.
infinitely until
Infinitely.
what
Yeah.
such time as
Forever.
you're freed. Why do you think when
Until
Jesus died on
creator
the
judges
cross,
them. Yeah.
when
Pardon?
Jesus died on the cross, he actually went to the underworld. He went to hell.
Right.
He went to a very specific area of hell, and
Mhm.
he set the captives free. Those that were there,
Mhm.
not the unrighteous, but those that were there, they were kind of in between because
Yeah.
they had nowhere else to go.
Mhm.
And Jesus witnessed to them. He also witnessed to the fallen. He witnessed
Yeah.
to the demons. Demons, not necessarily the fallen, that's their descendants.
Yeah.
And we are told that we are to spread the gospel to all living beings. Now,
That's
why would we be told to witness to a border collie? That
yeah.
sounds crazy, right?
Mhm.
You're like,
They
oh,
have
wolf's
conscience.
cuckoo bananas have already been told us a million times. It doesn't matter.
Mhm.
But why would you
Their
be
conscience.
told
Yeah.
that? If reincarnation wasn't real, if that being could not transcend to a higher level, why would it
Exactly.
matter if you were to witness to an animal?
Exactly. Yeah.
The reason that we are told to witness to this animal is because at some point that's not going to be an animal.
Right. That's right.
Somebody asked me one time, they said, what happened to the dinosaurs? They were being really snarky. They were atheists. And I said,
Yeah.
they're us.
Yeah.
And he's
Yeah.
like, exactly. You're admitting that evolution is real. I said, maybe in a sense, it's called adaptation. But the truth is, their essence, their soul, their being,
Yeah. So
whatever, has
different.
evolved to
Yeah.
become different types of consciousness.
Just reconstituted into something
It's
else.
reconstituted into something else. You're
Right.
looking at the relic corpses of whatever, bones and whatever else. You don't know what that energy consciousness might have been. It might be you.
So,
I know that's a weird concept, and it sounds like I'm overreaching, and I'm like whatever.
no, I agree with that. Like I'm opening my eyes to so much things now that I've experienced what I have, and I've actually had, like I said, Jesus appear to me and tell me to cast them out, and I've been being guided now by higher entities to like I went on a soul retrieval journey, and I mean I get divine like I get messages in the clouds, like, and I get pictures of it. I got a picture of God's
Now
hand.
you got to remember, though, there's a lot of deceit in those things too.
Oh, I know.
Because when you're really open, now you died as a child. Now you have, there's another guy who was used as a child by
Yeah.
a curandera. His name is Abe
Yeah.
Cias, and I do a show
Right.
with him on Friday. He has a show He's probably going to be coming on later tonight. He comes on every night. Spiritual Encrypted Encounters with Abe Sees. I was on his show night before last. Check him out. He talks about a lot of things. He sees a lot of things, and people think he's crazy, but he sees it because the brujeria that was used. He was used in this brujeria, which gave him the ojo totaro, the gift of the eye. What people don't understand and grasp is the concept of wisdom and knowledge and how it's applied.
Right.
And they don't understand the world that we live in, and they don't understand that we're living in a matrix. They think that everything is a certain way, and it's really not.
Right.
But
Exactly.
you know, they stick it in your face all the time, and people think that it's a big joke. It's a big game. And to them, it is, because they have.
I've been subject to reality my whole life, so I know, like, I see it. And
so I'm going to let you go, but you know what? It's
Yeah.
been a pleasure talking to you, Scott. I want you to get in touch with me. Please email me at joshturner@prtpodcast.com. Artistic Bunny, if you're listening, you email me too, so that we can talk
Nice
and
to
we
meet
can
you.
further these discussions. And I see
For
another
sure.
guy there. I see Sean. Let me
For
say
sure.
hi to Sean.
I'll be
Sean,
back
how
in
you
touch.
doing?
Hey, good. Yourself, Josh, and everyone?
Everybody else has already
Good
belled, but Scott jumped off. Didn't mean for you to lose you, Scott, but please re-email me so I can reread the stories and we could go over this. What I think in a nutshell is happening with Scott, and I'm not going to say because I don't know 100%, but the Fae have a tendency to pretend.
Yeah.
So they play dress up, and I think that could be what's happening there. We don't know for sure, though. We don't know for sure because we see through the glass darkly. Sean, what's going on? I got to jump off, man. But if you want to email me too, so that we can set something up, and then you and I and the guys can get on. And people on the podcast have been asking for some interviews because they're stubborn and they don't want to come to YouTube and listen to the interviews. And one of them, she's a kickboxer. She's a badass. I don't want to piss her off, but she's like, I just don't have time. You know, I'm drinking my shake and I'm driving, and you know, I can't listen to YouTube while I'm doing. I'm like, what? But she can do martial arts and kick the crap out of people and listen to the podcast. I said, come on, that's not fair. That's not fair at all. You're beating people up and you're listening to me and Tony and Anthony, but if I'm on YouTube, she can't even drive and listen to it. It's like, I'm in a wreck. I don't know what's going to happen. I'll drop my shake. I don't know. But like I said, she's like a kickboxing tough person. I don't want her coming and beating me up. I'm old now. She's like 32. I don't want to get beat up. But seriously though, I mean that's you know kind of where we're at. But Sean, you need to get in touch with me so that we can bring your stories and the things that have happened to you to those poor people who will not come to the tube of you.
Yeah, right. I've sent you the on the Facebook Messenger. And the PDF. I'll send
that
you
Messenger, dude. It is. Tony can tell you. One day I asked Tony. I gave him my phone first, and it was like 50 scrolls for one day. So you gotta just send me the email, and I will find it every morning like religiously. I go in and I take it and I move them over into the files. Tony can attest to this. He knows. He sees me do it every day. And then I do what I got to do. And I watch the amazing movie Jim Cotta. It's an amazing film about a man that found a dog and he moved to Thailand and became king. I honestly am I don't know what the hell it's about. I'm just talking crap.
So I'll give you just a taste then before I go. I'll do that. I'll send an email. I'm going to give you just a little taste.
Okay.
Glimmer Man. You talk about a Glimmer Man.
Mm-hmm.
That in my house, but it is think of a Komodo dragon-like head with horns.
Oh, yeah.
Sitting there staring at me. And I'll explain the rest in email to you.
Okay, do it. Send it to me. Okay, Sean.
Okay, have a good night, guys.
I'll let you run.
Good night, Sean.
Yeah. So Paul, it's your first night co-hosting with us here. What did you think about it tonight? What do you think? It was kind of slow tonight, but I mean, usually we have a whole lot more people. But
I mean, Autistic Bunny, she was awesome. She had a lot of good stuff.
Yeah,
and you know, I wanted to hear more from Sean actually.
Sean is on quite a bit, and so. But I mean, the show can only go so far,
right?
You know, we have to, you know, and Artistic Bunny, I felt like something I needed to do, and that was for her to get rid of that pentacle because all it is the pentagram. Because you got to understand, these beings, they don't observe things the way we do. They don't like for us. We walk upright and we're thinking this is up, this is down, this is this and that. It's the Cartesian. They don't look at the world that way. They look at it in waves of a balance. And so that pentagram, it's the same thing to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's a fool's errand when they say go find this, do that. No, well, then it doesn't matter. I mean, you're not going to find anything out there.
Right.
The kingdom of God is found within, and that's the truth.
Mhm.
But it was nice having you on.
I
Paul.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
And tune in tomorrow night, guys. We'll be doing this retelling people's encounters tomorrow night. We have a great show planned for you tomorrow night, and of course, Sundays usually that's kind of like our flagship night. We usually have a lot of people to come in, and Saturdays have been kind of slow as always. Maybe 300 people. But sometimes we'll fill up a little more. Fridays is hit or miss. Sometimes it's big, sometimes it's not. Tuesdays we always get a big crowd in there for the podcast episode. Everybody loves those, and so we stayed off part of the week this week because I had a lot of packing to do and a lot of things to do, and we're taking our time to do what we have to do to come on the show. I will be in San Antonio on Saturday. If anyone from Texas is so inclined to join me and my colleagues, Ryan Edwards, who's hosting the event at the Magic Time Machine, Rod Nichols from Bear County Bigfoot. I don't know if Sibylla's going to be there. I think I invited her, Sibylla Irwin. Then, of course, Ken Gerhard. There was a couple other people that were going to show up. But anybody who's wanting to go is welcome. And they're doing this. They're going to do it once a month, and it's for people in the area, Central Texas. There's so many people with so many stories from this region, So just wanted to throw that out there. So that'll be on July 31st. I will be there. So Paul, I'm going to let you run.
Move down there, yeah.
Joining, and I appreciate it. You showing up.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you going to
Love
be
being
back
there.
next Saturday? You want to be back?
If you'll have me, I'll be.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I'd like to have you as a regular. You're a good guy. I think you deserve to be
Appreciate it.
have your voice heard
Appreciate
and whatever.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anytime. I'm here.
Yeah. Paranormal Paul, tell them the coordinates to your show and how they can find you.
Paranormal Among Us on YouTube. I just had a show earlier tonight with Blondes and Booze. Kristen Brandy were on the show talking Bigfoot encounters and stuff. Actually, I've been on all the last 3 nights with them, so it's been fun. So yeah, Paranormal Among Us over on YouTube. Fun time.
Yeah. So folks, thank you for Paul for showing up, and I'll see you. All right.
Okay.
Good night.
I'll be here.
So Paranormal Paul, good guy, nice guy. I wanted him to come on and be a co-host on Fridays. Good exposure with a good guy, and I think that he's somebody that's going to do well in this field. And of course, the Blondes and Booze, really nice, good people I've been friends with for a long time. And of course, on Fridays, I'm with Abe and Monica and Joe, my Texas peeps, good people. So there's a lot of good people doing a lot of things in this field. Not everybody's got their agenda or whatever. And there's some people that do. We know that. And then there's some people that are just doing what's right. And so we try to stand on the side of right and reason and whatever. Everybody's a sinner. Everybody fails. Everybody makes mistakes. Okay. It's how you rectify it. And then it's, the other thing I was telling Artistic is that it's the intent. It doesn't really matter. Religion is so convoluted. What really matters is the intent. That's what matters. So anyways, I'm going to play us out here. Everyone here at Paranormal Roundtable, see you tomorrow night.